of Danny and Dusty, always live on the Odyssey app, is KFXX KWJJ HD2 Portland, 1080 The Fan, an Odyssey station. April means pro football.
I mean, here's a guy that criticizes everybody, whoever they take. He's got the answers to who you should take and who you shouldn't take.
I don't do a ton of research.
In my knowledge of him, he's never ever put on a jockstrap. He's never been a coach. He's never been a scout. He's never been an administrator. And all of a sudden, he's an expert.
Well, I think we do a decent job for guys who suck.
This is a draft week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by Crunch Fitness, celebrating 35 years of fitness with a party on Tuesday, April 30th from 4 to 7 p.m. at Aloha, Beaverton, Division Center, and Vancouver Plaza.
Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
All right, 6:02 in the Rose City. Time for Dirt and Sprague on Portland Sports Leader 1080 The Fan. Yes. Happy hump day indeed.
What is happening?
Good morning.
Days are just flying by, man. NFL drafts tomorrow. Big weekend ahead. Exciting stuff.
I had a dream that me and Eric Spoelstra were on a road trip together.
What kind of music does Eric Spoelstra listen to on a road trip? Or is he a podcast guy?
We talked the whole time.
Just a conversation.
Yeah.
It's a lot of talking.
It is a lot of talking, and I ruined the, to no surprise of anybody that's listened to anything I've done, I ruined the conversation eventually.
So he will no longer be the Blazers head coach? Were you like hired by the Blazers to be an emissary to go recruit him to be the next head coach?
No, I can't remember what the circumstances quite were for us to hit the road. It wasn't like end of the world scenario, but there was some weird event where me and Eric Spoelstra had to hit the road.
You're just on the run from something. There's something chasing you, something to be afraid of. Of all the NBA coaches you could be stuck in a road trip with, he'd probably be pretty high on the list.
It'd be hard. I'd be hard pressed to think of who would be in the category with him.
I mean, I can only name about 7 NBA head coaches, so I'm going to need some help here.
That's fine.
Let's see.
But
I guess it would depend on how much basketball you wanted to talk versus.
See, that's the thing with him that we've interviewed him on the show before, and he's a funny dude. Like, we ended up talking half the time about a Grateful Dead concert.
Exactly.
Yeah, he was great, and he's from the local area. Like, so you're going to get basketball, but he's good talking other things.
Yes.
Because if you had Popovich on a plane next to you, the wealth of basketball knowledge, like that and wine knowledge.
I don't think he'd want to talk basketball with you.
No, see, that's the thing.
He looks down on your basketball knowledge.
Definitely does.
You get him talking about wine, though, I bet you will. The flight will be over before you know it.
His wine is in Portland.
Yeah.
He's got a wine. He's teamed up with a winery, I think, in our area.
Now, let me take a shot in the dark here, and maybe I'm wrong on my take. My looking at Rick Carlisle feel like he's a cool dude. Rick Carlisle, a good dude?
Rick Carlisle, probably a good dude.
Okay.
Seems like he's a good dude.
Seems like a down-to-earth kind of guy.
What's funny about you looking at that list is I almost, before Swag talked, almost said, I wonder if Rick Carlisle, I was thinking, I wonder where Rick Carlisle is on this.
Terry Stotts would have been near the top. Terry Stotts is a down-to-earth, cool dude, and we always enjoyed our interactions with him. He would be okay, bearable.
See, here's my thing. My qualifier would be, is the coach willing to participate in the weird? You know, like the would you rather game? Do I have a coach in the car that's going to play the would you rather, and it's going to be a ridiculous would you rather?
Throw some FMKs at him.
Like, do you want your nipples as long as your legs, or your legs to be the length of your finger? You know what I mean? Like, I want to know.
You got to choose nipples as long as your legs.
Well,
legs the size of your nipples, then you're not going anywhere.
But imagine your legs
nubs.
hanging off your boobs.
That's okay. Are they the size of legs or the size of nipples? Like, are they long and skinny? Because
no, then the size of your legs.
So it's that big.
Yes.
It's like this. Okay, then it's a different conversation.
Well, then you're a four-legged animal.
Well, that's true, but think about how weird your legs look when they're as long as your fingers.
I think I would choose to still have legs, and then I kind of walk, and my chest is just down towards the ground. I'm like a spider at that point.
How
do you move with legs the size of
You're
nipples?
like that
you
one
can't
guy
move.
in Shallow Hal. Is that what you are? In the
That's a really good poll by you.
That is a great poll. If we're going like
the guy that gets walked,
put a leash on him.
Hey, she's gonna go walk me now. All right.
What are you
doing, man?
Hey, you have fun, buddy.
Awesome.
Whatever.
It's over. But no, I ruined the conversation in my dream. Like, quite literally, he got out of the car he went to some house or hotel. I couldn't quite make it out. And I saw him about 20 minutes later, and he wouldn't even acknowledge me anymore.
Wouldn't even wave at you.
And the question I didn't think was really even the weirdest question I could come up with in real life.
What'd you ask him?
I said, hey, man, how does the pressure of trying to win a championship now versus the first year you were in the championship compare? And it offended him.
That's a pretty reasonable question.
Actually, it's a real question I'd want to know.
I would too, because I can imagine the pressure that he felt trying to win one with
that group.
with the Heatles, especially after they lost to Dallas the first year.
Being a no-name coach that largely is
Yes.
like, wait, Pat Riley's not going to coach this team? You're going to have this guy do it?
He's just looming behind you. Pat Riley's gonna step back into the bench, and you're gonna get fired at any given moment. And then they decide to not fire him, and now 10 years later, he's still the head coach there. And considered to be one of the best in the NBA.
It's a good little backstory. That first year they came up short against the Mavs. Really, LeBron came up short against the Mavs.
Yeah, J.J. Barea locked him down.
Hey.
Shout out to the little people out
Alvarado bothered him too.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, you got to be careful. There's a story that Pat Riley basically, I think it was LeBron. I'm not sure it was Wade because Wade was pretty familiar with him from being in the organization. But I think it was from the LeBron camp. And it was kind of like, hey, why don't you fix this? Why don't you come down from your box and come coach this team the way he did when they fired Stan Van Gundy in 06 and they won the championship with Pat Riley.
Pat Riley got another ring as a coach.
And Pat Riley was so committed and liked Spoelstra so much that he basically told the Bronx people to piss off.
He
said, shut up. He's coaching this team. Deal with it.
He knows what he's doing. He's going to be okay.
Yeah.
There's no need to panic 1 year into this entire thing.
And LeBron in the Reddick pod, he basically said what Spo did was he worked with Chip Kelly that offseason after they lost the championship. He came home, and he wanted to see if he could take the spread, hurry-up system that Oregon was running and apply it in basketball. And then, if you haven't heard the story, LeBron basically says they moved Bosch to the 5 and out so that nobody would clog the paint, and so D. Wade and Bron could cut, or they bring it down like a locomotive and there's nobody in the paint.
You telling me right now that Chip Kelly won those titles for the Miami Heat? Is that what you're telling me right now?
It's the closest to a title Oregon's gotten.
Is this what you're telling me? Do
Yeah,
I get to
am.
claim these? Do I claim these titles?
It's a really interesting
He's from
story.
Portland. Chip Kelly helped him. I think
Yeah.
we claim these. That's at least a half of a ring. That counts as like a shared national title.
Oh, so you're going to pull a Huskies. Now it's okay.
That's a shared national
Okay,
title right
all
there.
right.
Okay, let's hang the banner in Autzen. Let's get on it, people. Come on. Raise that thing up. That's a half a national title. Make sure it's a 0.5 on there, though. Let's be legit here, okay?
I actually thought it was a really good story. Like in camp, he taped off the paint. So when you were coming up, if you're bringing the ball up the court, you get past half court, you look in the paint. No big was allowed to cross the tape.
They went floor is lava, NBA practice.
Yeah, basically is what LeBron said that they did.
You can't go in there.
And if you go watch the tape, they beat the Thunder in 5 that year. It freed everything up and changed everything for them to play Bosch at the 5 and put him in the corner for the kickouts.
It's funny when you hear stories about an innovative head coach who is looking for answers and solutions to problems that their team might have, and then compare that to the situation we have in Portland. Because we have a very similar problem. We did the YouTube hit with Ben Golliver last week, and he pointed out no matter how well DeAndre Ayton played late in the season for Portland, one of the biggest issues that they have is that he's a paint clogger. He clogs it up. He's like me with toilets, man. He's just in the middle, and it's going to be a bad problem. And Scoot Henderson needs to have a cleared out paint. He needs to have an unclogged area so that he can attack the hoop and try and finish. But when you have a center who's always standing around there, it's not an easy solution for him. And so now that I know that there are answers out there, I'll paint as lava and go find a stretch 5. I'm curious if Portland finds the same solutions.
Yeah, Golliver said they need to trade Ayton. They said they need to move off him, figure out a 5 at a different way because,
That
as
can
you
stretch
mentioned,
the floor.
Yeah, and free up some more space for Scoot. I don't know if they're going to do that, but
I mean, they're not going to do that because it's a reasonable thing to do to develop your young point guard, and they're not going to do it.
well, before he went on a tear, though, there was a report that they were willing to trade him at the deadline.
I feel like I've heard a report that they're willing to trade everybody on their team. They're not sure about Scoot. We don't know about Ayton, and they don't end up trading anybody.
Imagine the look it would have been around the league if they would have traded Ayton after he came into the year saying, I'm dominating.
I think they could have said, hey, this is what happens when you don't show up to games because of ice, buddy. All right? Your ass is grass. Get out of here.
We're not hurting him for that.
Get to work, okay?
Every Oregonian stays home in that situation. I'm not going to get mad at him.
Not
for that.
committed to winning. He's not committed enough, all right?
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, what do you got?
Because my show sheet's interesting today. I'm breaking up the basketball from the football, but I'm probably going to push the basketball later into the show because I got a lot of football notes I want to get to. The draft's tomorrow. Would you guys say the NFL and NHL playoff, or the NBA, excuse me, and NHL playoffs have been good, meh, or not that great?
I would say not that great.
Yeah.
I think they've been good so far.
You had the 2 games 2 nights ago that were fantastic. Last night, the Clipper-Dallas game was good.
Was it?
I mean,
It was like 70 to
It was
68
close.
in
It
the
was
fourth
close.
quarter with
I'll give you close scores.
'Kay.
The other 2 games were not good at all.
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee was terrible. Yeah. Minnesota, Phoenix was close for the first 2.5 quarters, and then Minnesota pulled away, and it was over from there. Stanley, you finally got your first overtime game last night in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
I was going to say, it took a little while for the NHL to get into the overtime.
Took a while. You had that first Winnipeg-Colorado game was really good. What was the other high-scoring one?
We had the 7-6.
The
was it
Yeah, that was Winnipeg, Colorado.
Yeah.
That was game 1.
13 goals, yeah.
Was
Then
that
they
game
played-
1, 13
Yeah,
goals?
that was game 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, you had that. But no, I would a little disappointing so far. I'm going to give you a little disappointing.
You're a little over the map there.
I mean, I am. I was trying to think. I'm going
I
disappointing.
think it's been good. Hasn't been great yet. Yeah, the one great night for the NBA.
The
that
doubleheader
was
on
special.
TNT, yeah.
I thought the games started to get interesting. They weren't the most aesthetically pleasing last night, but I think they got interesting with Kawhi Leonard coming back for the Clippers, and all of a sudden
He stunk.
the offense bogged down rather than the free flowing that it was
he was
in game
terrible.
1.
Playoff James Harden showed up as well, too.
Yep.
Well, I don't look. I don't defend James Harden much.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Kawhi coming back and clearly not being right. It throws everything else off.
It does.
Everybody else has to he's back. James Harden can't be quite James Harden because Kawhi is here. There's
Still
the
jacked up
ball.
10 threes and went 2 of 10.
You know, he didn't hit his shot, certainly.
Now, personally, I've enjoyed the
Had no problem
Timberwolves.
shooting.
I've enjoyed the Timberwolves shutting the Suns down.
Yeah, it's been fun.
That's been enjoyable. I don't know how great the basketball is, but
Well, they say, what is the Remember the Titan line? Attitude reflect leadership. And I just watch Phoenix. I go, you guys all look like you're Kevin Durant's.
just quitting on the
Quiet,
season.
passive players who sometimes have good outings, but, largely can be overtaken and broken at any given moment in the game.
I got takes on the Suns for you today. I got some Quake takes for you.
Well, I'll tell you what. I want you to save the Quake takes for basketball stuff when we get to it. But have you seen the internet's abuzz?
No, what happened to the internet's buzzing today?
Oh, we're already moving on to the next Kevin Durant team. If Phoenix gets eliminated.
Where's he going next year? Doesn't he
They-
have like 4 years left on his contract? Didn't he just sign an extension in Brooklyn?
was he going to end up with the Heat now? Is that the next one?
El Heat.
Is he going back to the Warriors?
No, he was caught liking a post
Oh,
of a
God.
player that everyone went,
Scoot Henderson.
You were kind of close with one of your guesses. There's a real buzz, and this is just buzz that doesn't have any actual backing, by the way. But there's real buzz that he might try to pull a LeBron. I'm coming home.
Yeah.
And jump onto the next young wave that might help lead him to a championship.
He's got 2 years left on his deal,
2
by the
years,
way.
yeah.
51 million, 54 million the next 2 years.
God, it's
I mean, they got a lot of young guys. There's probably some cap space open in OKC. You can make that work.
That's not a player you need.
No, I
You need a
wouldn't.
big. You need a
big.
solid, good big down there, and you let everybody else keep growing.
We got one, DeAndre Ayton. You can have him.
I don't
Unclog our toilet.
know if I'd want DeAndre if I was in Oklahoma City.
Sure, I don't know if they do, but we can offload him and we can get some more draft picks. They got all those assets to play with.
It'd be really funny if he did go back to OKC.
Win a title
Try to
after
do
all
the
that.
LeBron thing. Oh.
And that's his entire career is following the LeBron blueprint, but he has not won his own title yet. You can say all you want that LeBrons don't count in Miami because he was on this super team. That's fine. He went to Cleveland and won one, and Kevin Durant
Went
needs
to LA and won one.
He did. Kevin Durant needs to win one, and he hasn't.
Kevin Durant's already been on more teams than LeBron has.
He has.
After making fun of him on Twitter in 2010 of like, can't we stop running with these guys? Run it back. That's on his 4th team.
Soon to be number 5. Because if they
Probably.
get swept in the first round of the playoffs, there is no chance he is a Phoenix Sun next year.
Not a chance.
He
in
sees the
hell.
writing on the wall. He's 36 years old. He's getting the hell out of there.
Well, we got a busy show. We will get to the association and the playoffs. Sturt says he's got Quake takes to get to today, so we'll get to that. Statter story at 8:15. We'll talk about that. Let's start with some NFL draft dealings. Important notes going into the NFL draft. This train has left the station, and NFL Zigger Zag loaded first hour. Let's get it started. Dirt and Sprague on the Fan.
This is Draft Week with Dirt and Sprague
Brought to you by Crunch Fitness.
on 1080 The Fan.
All right, well, sometimes the sports universe gives you something and you must take it, so thank you to the universe.
Call me. I'll come over and eat it. I bet it's delightful.
So glad he pulled that. That was such a great thing to just say in the moment.
Just give me a ring, dude. I'll come over and eat it. Let me know what you need, buddy. I'm here for you.
It's very awkward that you actually have something in your mouth while you say that.
I'm eating a nice little breakfast bar over here. It's good. I didn't eat any breakfast today.
I am like the Avatar. I've got a leaf over my junk, and I'm bowing at an almighty tree
Okay.
to the sports universe for this gift.
Okay.
I will pivot out, and I will do this. Pete Thamel is reporting that Reggie Bush is going to get his 2005 Heisman Trophy back today.
One of the dumbest things in decisions in sports that has ever been made has finally been corrected. This has never made any sense.
Great job.
O.J. Simpson still has his Heisman Trophy. Guy murdered his wife. He's an absolute horrible human being.
Well,
He definitely did, and he's on his
allegedly.
he is on his way to. He's dead. He can't sue me anymore. He's on his way to hell. He still has his Heisman Trophy, and we took Reggie Bush's away because they bought his parents a house when everybody was paying for recruits and have been for basically eons in college football. Johnny Manziel still has his Heisman Trophy.
Yeah.
That dude was signing autographs and getting paid and doing.
and he was out and out, like loud about
very
it.
honest and open about all the rules and laws that he was breaking. But no, look, you can keep your Heisman Trophy. Reggie Bush is the only stance that they ever decided to take. It never made any sense. He is one of the best college football players ever. He is the best college football player that I have ever seen with my own eyeballs.
Like in
my lifetime
yeah.
with my eyeballs, not on TV. See, I will never forget being at Oregon State's home game against USC in the fog.
The fog game, yeah.
I'll never forget when I went to that game.
Look at you. You were a little beaver.
I had some family friends who were trying to get me to go to Oregon State, and that was like sophomore year of high school for me. And they're like, yeah, come on down, see the campus.
You
And
weren't totally against it, though.
No, I wasn't at all. I thought very hard about going to Oregon State, and I will never. He returned a punt in that game. I'll never forget watching him live and in person and just being blown away. And this is a wrong that has been long overdue to be corrected, and finally it has been.
Just emerging from the fog. Oh, there he is. He's going to score.
There he goes again. I'll never forget when he scored a touchdown at Autzen and his shoes fell off. And Oregon that year, I think it was 2005, went like 11-1. That was a good Oregon team. The only team they lost to was USC. USC came to Autzen and just kicked their teeth in.
They were a different level team, man. They really were. Like 4 or 5 years ago, I remember Fox had gone back to USC for one of their big games.
Yeah.
And Reggie was there because obviously he was a part of the broadcast at that point.
Basically a USC crew, him and Matt Leinart.
It was. And it was a big deal because that was his first like public return to USC since the end. The 06 year, the 05 year was stripped basically. And they showed him love. And I remember it was early morning. I was taking my dog on a walk and I was just like, oh man, this was really cool. So I'd sent something dumb out on Twitter like, it's so dumb that we took this dude's Heisman. Like, let's just correct this wrong. We all know it's obvious. What a dumb thing to do. And I'll never forget it. Very rarely do I have takes that age this well. I had somebody respond to it and be like, this is why you're a joke of a host. You have no real integrity. This guy clearly deserves to lose his Heisman. Maybe if you had the same integrity as other radio hosts, you'd be good. And I got into I just was like, what?
Where the hell did that come from?
And I basically was like, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
This is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen happen in my life is we're taking this guy's trophy away as if it's going to change anything about what happened or is going to happen.
The dumbest thing we do on sports.
And 4 or 5 years fast forward, here we are today, and he's getting it. I just want to know if that person's going to tweet me and be like, hey, remember I questioned your integrity? I was a moron.
There's zero chance you're going to get that. The erasing of sports is one of the funniest things that we try
It
and do.
is so stupid.
Like, we just went through this recently. Herm Edwards got a 5-year show cause penalty, which is one of the longest a head coach has ever gotten. And that was in the light of their president and athletic director at the time coming out and raving about how great of a person he was and how he had nothing to do with any of their scandal.
Well, that president's throwing him under the bus now.
Now he is, and he got a 5-year show cause, and he accepted the penalty because the dude flat out cheated. Like, we're stripping Arizona State of wins, like that matters out. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean?
They weren't even that good.
They were like won 7 games. We're going to strip those 7 wins like it didn't happen. This idea that we're just going to erase some of the best college football teams of my lifetime from the memory and from the history books like it never happened. Like, dude, I was alive. I saw USC win a national championship. I saw Reggie Bush run all over Florida State and flip the ball behind his back. Those are memories that I have as a fan, and you pretending that they didn't happen is not going to take that away.
Well, the NFL draft is tomorrow, and it's funny to think about this, that he gets this trophy back today. And I told Dirt this during the break. I said, man, like, if you would have given, 2000, he was drafted 06, right? The 06 draft?
Sounds right.
Let's
Maybe
say
maybe 07. Wasn't the Texas USC title game 06?
Yeah. I don't, okay, whatever that draft was.
Yeah.
I was 20.
No, you're right, 2006 draft.
Okay, so I was probably 19 years old. 19. If you would have given 19-year-old Brandon Sprague the reins to the number 1 pick in Houston. I talk about whiffing. Oh, my God. I would have taken him, and I wouldn't even have considered.
No.
I knew all those players, and I wouldn't even have considered any other player except him if I was the Houston general manager. And, look, his career wasn't short, but compared to what maybe a lot of us thought, a little disappointing. Like, I thought that guy was going to be 2.0 Barry Sanders.
I did, too.
And, obviously, USC was absolutely loaded on both sides, and just a great system, situation. He was a phenomenal player, one of, if not the best college player I've also ever seen. But I would have absolutely whiffed as the Houston general manager, picking him over any other player in that draft.
I will never forget laughing at Houston for that draft. And in the moment, just like, how dumb could you possibly be? You have the easiest layup pick of all time at number 1 overall. And you screwed it up because you tried to outthink the room.
He would have been such a, like, he obviously would have been somewhat disappointing through the first couple years of his career. I didn't think he was awful in New Orleans. They already had Deuce McAllister, I think.
Yeah.
But man, you want to talk about buzz? I don't know what the Mario Williams jerseys were doing on the shelves. Reggie's would have been you would have made so much more money as an organization drafting Reggie Bush in the first couple years. And it's not about that, obviously. And Mario actually had a pretty decent career.
He did.
I was wrong on that. But, yeah, I would have taken him without a doubt. First pick, not a consideration of any other prospect.
No.
And we would have made a lot of money on it.
Yeah, you would have sold a lot of
everybody
tickets.
would have been like, ooh, this isn't working out quite how we thought.
3 years in, it wouldn't have looked great. Fun memory lane flashback. The top 5 of that draft. Mario Williams, 1 to Houston. Reggie Bush, 2 to New Orleans. Vince Young, 3 to Tennessee. DeBrickashaw Ferguson, 4 to the Jets. A.J. Hawk, 5 to the Green Bay Packers.
Hey, Pat McAfee's co-host.
That was your top 5. Now he's smoking cigars on TV, dude.
Not talking.
Guy's living a good life, man. He's got the best radio gig on the planet.
You could argue, yeah. I mean,
he doesn't have to do anything. He just sits there. He smiles. He says like 4 words a show. He's like Silent Bob.
Probably makes 7 figures to just sit there with his ponytail.
I want that guy's job.
That's a great life.
I'm so jealous. When can I just zoom in from my garage with a cigar in my mouth, make 8 times the amount of money I'm making right now that's a good point, Brandon. I'll do that. I'll be that guy.
I just want to be the guy with the mullet who nobody knows his name, but he'll just chime in occasionally to anything McAfee says.
Who the hell's that guy? I don't know.
Do people know those names?
I think the P1s of the show probably know the names.
Yeah, the diehards that watch every single day.
But if you're like a drive-by viewer like I am, I don't know them all by heart.
I've seen quite a bit of McAfee. I wouldn't say P1, but I catch a lot of McAfee stuff.
Sure.
I don't know his name.
I don't either.
He talks the most of the guys, him and the cowboy hat guy.
Yeah, there's a cowboy hat guy and a mullet
There's
guy.
a mullet guy and a cowboy hat guy, and I don't know their names.
It's a ragtag crew, man.
Those are great gigs. Chime in occasionally with a thought.
Yes.
Hey, here you go. Let me try to tee you up, Pat.
I'm going to jump on in. I'm going to jump on out, okay?
That's a great
Put
gig.
one hand in, put one hand out.
Oh, I love
Let's
that.
do the hokey pokey and end this segment.
Reggie Bush, Heisman Trophy coming back today. Pete Thamel is reporting that the Heisman Trust is going to make that announcement, and Reggie will probably have something on his socials.
I wonder if he'll go to the event next year.
He
to
should.
the ceremony. Hey, but I'm
He
sure
should be highlighted.
I'm saying there's probably still some bad blood here. This is long overdue. But if you're Reggie Bush, I don't think you're just like bygones be bygones. Like you tried to pretend that I didn't exist for 20 years, and now you just want me open arms back at your ceremony. I don't know if I'm giving that to you.
I think the trophy is the gesture of we were wrong.
Be the bigger man.
Yeah. What do you have to lose from it?
Nothing.
He got fired from Fox. All he does is golf now.
Reggie Bush got fired from Fox.
Didn't he?
Did he?
I'm pretty sure they took him off that broadcast.
Arms up. I don't
Swag
know.
is supposed to be the oracle. This is.
Did he? Did he get fired from Fox?
I think they took. Yeah, I think they took him off.
Okay.
I'm not saying that very confidently, am I?
No, you're not.
I thought they had broken up the USC thing because it was a little too USC.
I don't watch the big nooner. This is a Sports Illustrated.
Mark Ingram.
Reggie Bush likely out at Fox?
Yeah, I think they replaced him with Mark Ingram.
All right. Yeah, you're right. I guess he just plays golf.
That's all. And he's an amazing stick. I follow him on Instagram. He's just posting great golf shots at amazing country clubs because he gets in. He says, I'm Reggie Bush. Like, great.
He's Reggie Bush.
Come play.
He plays wherever he wants, man. Now, again, a Heisman Trophy winner.
An important note on the the day before the NFL draft, and NFL Zigger Zag is all next. But first, Swag with the sports update.
This is Draft Week with Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by Crunch Fitness.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on the Fan, road teams finally breaking through in the NBA playoffs. The Pacers shoot 55%. Pascal Siakam puts up a triple-double in Milwaukee. They even their series at a game apiece against the Bucks with a 125-108 victory. They go back to Indy for games 3 and 4. Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving combined for 55 points. Kawhi Leonard held to 15 in his return to the Clippers lineup. And the Mavericks grind out a 96-93 Game 2 win. They head back to Dallas tied at 1-1. Timberwolves, the lone home team to win Tuesday, pulling away from the Suns in the second half, outscoring Phoenix 55-42 after halftime. They get a 105-93 win and a 2-0 series lead. Pair of Game 2s tonight beginning in Boston. Celtics lead the Heat 1-0. Not much faith in Miami, according to the bookmakers. 14.5-point underdogs for the 4 o'clock tip. Nightcap is in Oklahoma City. Pelicans trying to even up their series with the Thunder. Tip at 6:30. OKC 7.5-point favorites. Both those games can be seen on TNT. Ninth-ranked Oregon State baseball team ended their 4-game losing streak Tuesday night with a 7-2 win over the Portland Pilots at Hillsborough Ballpark. Beavers will host number 18 Oregon for a weekend series beginning Friday at 6 p.m. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigart from the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand at the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The original home of the Herd with Colin Cowherd. This is Draft Week with Dirt and Sprague
Brought to you by Crunch Fitness.
on 1080 The Fan.
All right, we've got NFL Zig or Zag coming up, an NFL draft edition of it. We'll dive into the association. I've got 5 players I want to ask a question to you about. We have a loaded second hour of the radio program. Off to a great start. We're talking about terms in the state of Utah. We're learning new things.
It's a good soaking and quaking conversation during the commercial break.
Yeah, learning what some of that stuff. Yeah. Yes.
Educating ourselves.
Yeah.
We're fully prepared.
Adam Schefter sent this out, and I thought it was really interesting. We talked a little bit yesterday about value of picks and how teams allow ego and impatience to get in the way of the NFL draft. We will see that again this year. I know Sam Monson doesn't want to cut where he's like, I wouldn't trust blah, 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 blah. He works for PFF. I get it.
Yeah.
There are certainly a ton of teams in this league that you would probably say, do you trust them? And you go, no, why would I?
There's no reason to.
Well, this is interesting. This is from Paul Hembo, who I believe works on a lot of their ESPN shows. He's a behind-the-scenes stat producer guy.
He does a thing on Get Up where it's like here's a trivia question.
Hembo's question of the day or whatever. I think the Bear used to do this. And this is the last 20 drafts, so 2000 to 2019, okay? Every position he labeled, whether it was a hit, a miss, and what the total was, and then what the percentages of that is. Now, his term of labeling hit versus miss, which you can certainly argue, like, I think you can get into a hit, and then is it star or just meh? Those are different things. But hit or miss, and miss to him qualifies as signed a second contract with the team that drafted them.
Yes, and some players get traded on their rookie contract because the team doesn't want to pay him. So that happens occasionally. So a hair misleading, but pretty darn accurate.
So our guy in Eugene at the center position might be in a good spot here. Center was the most successful hit position in the NFL draft the last 20 years. 11 hits, 1 misses, 12 total. 92% hit rate.
That was the biggest shock to me, that there were only 12 centers for a 19-year stretch taken in the first round of the draft.
Well, it's a weird thing because we know it's an important position. Sukanik certainly talks about the difficulties of the position.
Yeah, you're the leader of the offensive line. You're communicating the calls. Think about the way we talked about Jason Kelsey, only 12 guys in the first round.
Well, isn't that it, right? Like, he's the most famous of them at the position, but we've had a lot of great ones over the years. But I think the emergence of him as a celebrity and the tush push and all the media conversations that have happened in the last 2-3 years, it's an elevated position now where I think teams covet it and they value it. They haven't throughout the journey, but I think you're going to start seeing it more and more in the first round. Just all the lineman positions are of real good value.
JPJ should be a first-round pick. He might not be a first-round pick. That dude should be a first-round pick.
I think he will be.
There's a lot of the mocks I've seen lately have him first pick of the second round. He's borderline. If anybody that I've seen who deserves to be a first round pick, that dude does.
Offensive tackles. There've been 64 of these in 20 years. 59% hit rate.
These get degrees, baby.
Yeah, I think you take that all day.
Great on a curve.
Guard position. 28 total. 50%. It's a flip of a coin.
Which is hilarious because we talk about the boring drafts that don't often get headlines. What is your team taking in the top 10 that kind of puts you to sleep? An offensive lineman. Who's that guy? Where's he from? Okay. And this shows you the only 3 positions in the entire NFL for a 19-year stretch that had more of a 50% hit rate on getting to that next contract were offensive linemen.
It's
because it's
isn't
a little
that
bit
crazy.
It's easier to evaluate, in my opinion. Your big body, is he athletic? Can he move? Is he somewhat smart? Can he pick up calls? I think the evaluation there for those guys in that position is easier than it is anywhere else on the field. Doesn't mean that, again, you're not going to get misses. There are misses in here, but it's why I think if you're a GM and why Jim Harbaugh's talking about this, it's a safe pick, dude. We get a tackle. We feel like we can plug him in day one. There's not a development phase that we have to go through, and we're going to know right away whether or not we got a cornerstone for the next 10 years.
Linebackers are 48% a hit. Defensive tackles are 40%. Edge rushers are 44%.
Yeah, it was a little surprising.
Edge rushers, it's a wild card for me. Everybody proclaims this edge rusher in this draft is going to be the next great edge rusher, and you're like, Like, how are the Jags feeling right now watching Aiden Hutchinson play versus having Travon Walker?
Maybe missed that one a little bit.
Hey, we got the guy that won the combine. Awesome. How's that working out for you so far?
He was a freak athlete, man. Freak athlete.
Detroit got themselves a stud,
Yeah,
and
they
a dude
did.
that wanted to stay in the state of Michigan and play for the Lions.
Yes.
Cornerback is 38%, but I think people still covet that position. It's so important that you're going to keep taking the swing. Running back is 38%, not a position I would touch in the first round.
No, you should not.
Safety, 34%. Interesting why the secondary is so hard to gauge.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with who's playing around you in college, what defensive scheme are you in. I think those guys can be difficult to evaluate. Like
But why? Like, it's pretty cut and dry when you just talk about the position of safety and corner, and there's a lot that goes into it mentally.
Mm-hmm.
But like Pat Surtain, that's a dude you look at, you go, yep. And he's been really good.
He's been great.
But you look at corner and you go, well, that guy, why is he not doing really good? Like, I think the Toledo kid, I forget his name, but the kid who's coming from Toledo, he's going to be in the first round. Is he going to be a stud? He played at Toledo. All the measurements say he will. The scouts are raving about him.
Yeah.
But cornerback is a 38% hit rate.
I would just say the Surtain example is a good one, and there's a lot of guys who have come from big schools who have been really good. I think a lot of the success in the secondary depends on it's a position where you're really reliant on the rest of your defense. If you don't have a defensive line that can get home and you're a corner, you can't cover for 7, 8, 9 seconds. You're going to get beat eventually. If you're a corner who has terrible safeties in pass coverage, you're probably going to get beat a little bit more often than not. So you might have guys that are downgraded a little bit that end up slipping because their numbers aren't exactly what we thought they would be in college. They end up being second, third round picks, but they're better pros because they're in a better system with better players around them, and vice versa. You could be a corner who plays on a defense where the defensive line is dominant and you only got to cover for 3 seconds, and the safety over the top is an all-pro and going to be an all-pro in the NFL, and your life is incredibly easy, and maybe we overinflate the player that you are.
Quarterback is 46%, so sub 50% is the hit rate on these. The last couple drafts, people have obviously highlighted 2021 and where all those guys are now playing.
Different
outside
teams.
of Trevor Lawrence, different teams. Sub 50%, and you're still going to get a bunch of teams desperate, trade up, hope that they hit, because that's what it is. If you hit that position on the rookie scale deal, and even if it turns into a dude you got to sign, that's the most important position. So it's weird that it's a sub 50, but all these teams will just climb over each other to try to get the one because they think they're going to get the one out of that position.
This is why I think the single dumbest conversation that we're having right now about quarterbacks and where they're going to go is the age thing. This was trending again last night on Twitter, and it was because Jaden Daniels, somebody put out a graphic basically of since the 2010 draft, the oldest quarterbacks to go in the first round, and this is assuming Penix and Daniels do go. Brandon Whedon is the oldest. He was 28 and a half, minor league baseball player. That's an outlier. The next two highest since 2010 oldest guys would be Nix, who is 24.2 years old. Penix is 24 years old. And then you go Pickett, Tannehill, Burrow, Wentz, and then Jaden Daniels, 23.3. So these guys have a chance to be three of the oldest quarterbacks taken in the first round. And there was a highlight floating around of Jaden Daniels saying basically he's been in college so long that he threw a touchdown pass to Brandon Ayuk over Diamador Lenore to beat Justin Herbert's Oregon Ducks in pre-COVID college football. That's how long he's been around. But this highlights, like I keep seeing this argument. Well, what's the argument against Nix or Penix or some of these older guys? Well, it's their age. You're 24 years old. This number tells us less than 50% of these guys get to their second contract.
Yes.
Why do I give a rat's ass whether you're 24 or 22 when there's only a 46% chance I'm giving you another deal? I'm not worried about 16 years from now. I'm not worried about 12 years from now. I'm worried about 4 years from now. Are you a starter in the NFL at the age of 28? I think it's one of the dumber conversations we're having right now.
I think it's certainly interesting. A lot of NIL and how it's changing the draft landscape. And I'd add to that, receivers 27, by the way. Total crapshoot, dependent on the quarterback.
Yeah.
We can kind of understand why they fail. We can also see, circumstance where it didn't work at the first stop, works at the next stop. It's all dependent on other positions. Obviously, being a stud, if you're Justin Jefferson type, you're going to stand out. But a lot of these guys, it's just dependent on where they go. Last thing I'd add on the quarterback age thing. The interesting notes I've heard to say pro the older quarterback, the Penix, the Nix, the Daniels, they have shown the ability to evolve, grow, and get better.
Yeah.
All three of them.
All through very difficult circumstances.
Penix, I didn't think so much about because it was Indiana, but like Nix and Daniels being what they were blows my mind. I saw those guys play at previous stops, and I was like, meh, to no. And they became really good, won a Heisman. You take the younger quarterback because of what you say. They're projecting out 10 to 12 years and saying, well, he's 20 now. I mean, imagine what he could be at 23. But I just saw guys, what they do at 23. Those guys got better.
Yeah.
Nix has gone through how many offensive coordinators in his career in college?
Different one every single season.
And he got infinitely better. Penix got infinitely better.
Yep.
Daniels won the Heisman. I don't know if May's going to get better. No, by the way, he has to get better in the NFL, where I'd argue it's harder to get better,
Right.
whereas in college you can do it, and you build more confidence that way. And I don't know if Nix, Penix, or Daniels are going to be good, but I know they're at least going to be confident enough in themselves to say, I've gone through the adversity. I've gotten through it.
Yeah.
I can navigate my way to being a good, consistent starter, whereas we have no idea if Drake May is gonna figure that out. He didn't have a great last year at college, and the best thing you hope for is that he does figure it out in the NFL, but that's the hardest level to figure it out.
It's just funny, man. We can't take him. He's 24 years old, dude. There's a good chance this guy's not in the NFL at 29, so why do I care if he's 24?
Yeah.
Half these guys are going to flame out. We pretend every year in the draft that that's not the case.
NFL Zigger Zag Draft Edition next on The Fan.
The draft was bigger than ever. This is Draft Week with Dirt and Sprague
Brought to you by Crunch Fitness.
on 1080 The Fan.
All right, we'll get into some association stuff at the top of the hour. We're rocking on some football, 34 hours until the NFL draft. Yes, we are sickos to the point where ESPN has to put that on your screen to let you know. 34 hours until it's live.
The countdown begins. Did the teams or the leagues taking tomorrow night off? I forget how they do that. Or are we having NBA playoff games and an NFL draft? Both.
We're having both.
Okay, that's a lot.
I'm surprised the NBA didn't just roll over and say, okay, NFL, you can have the day. We're sorry.
Let's see. Who plays tomorrow? You got Cavs, Magic, don't need to watch it. Knicks, Sixers, Nuggets, Lakers. There's a lot going on.
You want a
tomorrow.
prediction? The NFL draft's going to rate better than all three of those games combined.
It definitely will. Lakers and Nugs is the only one that has a chance because it's LeBron.
That's $3 million at this point. That's not. That draft is probably going to pull 12 million
Oh,
viewers.
it'll be big.
NFL Zig-Zag Draft Edition. Let's get it going. A lot to get to in the second hour of the show. A lot of noise out there, particularly from Bruce Feldman, who was set out to write about the quarterbacks of this class, but he got so much wide receiver feedback in doing the research that he pivoted and he wrote a piece on The Athletic on the wide receivers in the draft. And one of the things that he kept hearing about was who the best receiver in the draft was. Dirt. Zig-Zag, Malik Neighbors will be the better NFL receiver than Marvin Harrison Jr. because a lot of scouts and coaches were telling Bruce Feldman, anonymously, of course,
Yes.
Malik Neighbors is actually the better player.
I always have a hard time with these kind of rumors that come out around now because how much of it is trying to leak information or get info out there of this guy's better or this guy's got questions. Maybe
According
you
to
should pass on
Belichick,
this guy.
all of it.
That's where it's all just flooding the water with misinformation. I'm going to zag on that. It's not a real confident zag, but I'm going to zag on that. I understand the criticisms of Marvin Harrison Jr. The numbers didn't jump off the page necessarily last year the way that some others did. He was not deserving of winning the Biletnikoff. That was one of the dumber awards that we've seen handed out in a long time in college football.
That was a joke. That upset me.
But I also, if you play it both ways, say if I put Marvin Harrison Jr. in the Ryan Grubb offense in Seattle with Michael Penix throwing to him, his numbers are better. And if I put him playing with Heisman Trophy winner where they're running up stats against Baylor School for the Blind to the Southeast, he's putting up better numbers. He had a bad quarterback throwing him the ball in an offense that was largely built on running it, and they were a team that played defense. So the numbers didn't jump off. I still would take him, though, as wide receiver number one between him and Odunze, and that's mainly just because I saw Odunze play more than I saw Neighbors play.
Pretty simple one here. Zig or Zag. There will be 2 franchise quarterbacks drafted this year. Now think about the way I phrased that.
Yes, at any time.
At any time of the draft, there will be 2 that emerge from this draft as franchise quarterbacks.
I'm going to zig on that. I'll zig on it because I think you're going to get one from the collection of bunch that we're talking about endlessly. And then it seems like in a lot of years in the NFL, there's a chance that you get the rando. Like, who's the guy that who's Brock Purdy this year that we're just not talking about? It's going to be a 5th-round pick, Russell Wilson, 3rd-round pick, Kirk Cousins, 3rd-round pick, Dak Prescott, 3rd-round pick. We didn't talk about any of those guys going into the draft, and then you look up years later and they're franchise quarterbacks. So I think you're going to end up with 2, one from the bunch. Caleb Williams is probably the odds-on favorite there. But one of those guys will get it, and if one of the others doesn't, I think there's a chance you get an outlier there in the 4th round somewhere. I'll say Zig.
Kid from Western Kentucky, Austin Reed, randomly just emerges. Sam Hartman and his beautiful flowing hair just becomes a great thing.
I think about Jordan Travis at Florida State, man. If Jordan Travis didn't shatter his ankle or knee or whatever it was, where's he in this conversation? Can he come back healthy? He was a tremendous player in college.
A photo of Roma Dunze and Caleb Williams together was posted to social media yesterday. They both took the same flight to Detroit for the draft. There's also a report that Odunze caught passes from Williams along with Keenan Allen. Zig or Zag, the Bears should look to add a playmaking weapon for Caleb with their 2nd first-round pick. They're currently at 1 and 9.
Yeah, I'm going to zag on that just because I don't know what the board looks like yet. I want to know what the board looks like and who's available there at 9. Do we get 4 quarterbacks to go right out of the gate? Like, is that the first 4 picks of the draft? Does somebody go different? Does somebody trade up to 5 and take a 5th quarterback? Or the first 5 picks of the draft quarterbacks? Because if that's the case...
never happened.
It's never happened before. Might happen this year. Who knows? Maybe it doesn't.
Never had 4 in a row.
Never had 4 in a row. That's where it's just hard because I don't know what the board looks like at 9. What else is available? Chicago's got a lot of holes to plug. They're not close to competing, in my mind, for a championship yet.
Really?
I don't think so. I think
they were good last year at the end.
I mean, yeah. I don't know about good. They were better than they had been. They were a serviceable NFL team. I'll grant you that. If there's an elite offensive lineman there, that offensive line was not very good. Their defense was okay, but can you go get a stud defensive tackle or a defensive lineman? It's just hard not knowing what the board looks like. I think you have DJ Moore, who's a really good wide receiver. Keenan Allen's going to be great for Caleb Williams as a rookie. Underneath guy, reliable route runner. So I don't think it's necessarily the biggest need for them. But if you don't have this run on quarterbacks and a lot of other guys end up going, and then Odunze's there at 9, then I would be okay. But I'll zag for now.
Last one, Diana Rossini of The Athletic wrote, the Commanders had 20 prospects hang out with their personnel execs at Topgolf, where Rossini writes that Jaden Daniels' agent was not pleased about this. In fact, he was irate. He wanted more one-on-one time. He wanted, oh, Daddy, look at me. But he had to share the spotlight with 19 others. She also writes that sources close to Daniels say his, quote, dream scenario, end quote, is to end up in Vegas to be reunited with Antonio Pierce. Zig or zag that DC and Daniels are not a good fit.
I'll zig on it just because I don't think much of Jaden Daniels as an NFL quarterback. So for that reason, I'll zig on it. They got a new defensive coach. I'm not a huge fan of that when it comes to developing a young quarterback, so I don't think that's a great fit either. Not that Vegas has one because Pierce is not an offensive guy either. The whole being upset about this and being angry about multiple people being around at a Topgolf event, like, this is one of the dumber headlines I've seen in a while. His agent's been quote tweeting things too, like, get over yourself, dude. Who do you think you're not the easy pick to be number 1 overall. You might not even end up going number 2 overall. You padded your stats against bad teams in the SEC. Like, get out of here, man. Get your ego in check.
There we go. NFL Zig or Zag every Wednesday at 6:45. A lot to get to in the second hour of the radio program. We'll talk about Luka and the Mavs, which leads me to ask you this question going into the break, Dirt. Which one of these young players is going to interrupt the Jokic party? If somebody's to interrupt it, which one of these 4 players would you pick most likely to do it? Ann Edwards, Luka, SGA, or Wemby? Loaded second hour of the show. Think about that one. We'll start there. Dirt and Sprague on the Fan.
Odyssey Sports Station. Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, we finally saw some road teams get victories in the NBA playoffs. The Pacers get a triple-double from Pascal Siakam. They shoot 55% and even things up with the Bucks, 125-108. The final there, they'll go back to Indy for games 3 and 4. Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving got it going offensively, combining for 55 points. They shut down Kawhi Leonard in his return to the lineup, holding him to 15. And the Mavs grinded out 96-93. It's all tied at 1 going back to Dallas. Timberwolves, well, they're unbeaten at home. Again, dominant defensively in the second half, held the Suns to just 42 after the break for a 105-93 win and a 2-0 series lead. 2 more game 2s tonight. First up in Boston, the Celtics lead the Heat 1-0. They're 14.5-point favorites for game 2 at 4 o'clock. The Nightcaps in OKC, the Pelicans, after surviving game 1, or losing game 1 by a bucket, trying to even things up against the Thunder. 6:30 tip in OKC. Thunder 7.5-point favorites. Both those games on TNT. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigard from the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand at the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The Fan is live on YouTube and Twitch. And now, Window Nation brings you on-demand videos. Watch Window Nation's window into 1080 The Fan. It's time to talk about things like high upside and low ceilings.
I would not take the quarterback there. Probably get one of those receivers. Now you got weapons around the quarterback, or you get the left tackle to bookend.
This is a draft week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by Crunch Fitness, celebrating 35 years of fitness with a party on Tuesday, April 30th from 4 to 7 p.m. at Aloha, Beaverton, Division Center, and Vancouver Plaza.
Dirt and Sprague on 1080. The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. Hour number 2, Dirt and Sprague here on the Odyssey app, 99.5 HD2 and YouTube. Good morning. Status story at 8:15. We got this Oregon player not making his former team's fan base very happy. 24/7's updated top 25 of 2024 has Oregon at 4.
Number 4. I'll take it.
Behind Ohio State, Georgia, Texas.
That's fair. Texas in the playoff last year. Ohio State's loaded. Georgia's Georgia. That's a fair ranking.
Never a good thing when the former player of a team says this about their new team and kind of goes against the former team. And so that fan base is all hot and bothered. We'll get to that today. We also have a scout telling a reporter their views on Caleb Williams and comping Caleb Williams to a very famous musician, but not in a complimentary way.
No.
So we'll get to that audio. The NBA's been a little up and down in the playoffs. There haven't been a ton of really close games. You know, the TNT doubleheader we talked about yesterday was the best doubleheader in TNT history. It was remarkable back-to-back games. Yesterday, not so much. There hasn't been a lot of close games. I'm trying to think, have we had an overtime game yet in the NBA? I don't think we have.
Don't believe so.
So,
Lakers and Nuggets was the closest because
Yes.
that was a tie game, I believe, when Murray hit the game winner.
So it hasn't been amazing, but last night the Mavs tied the series against the Clips. Kawhi made his return back, and we'll get to some NBA audio coming up, but he had a remarkable game, Luka did. Kyrie was good, and all the others contributed. They didn't play scared anymore, and the Clippers looked very unsure about themselves with Kawhi back in the rotation.
I'm not afraid anymore.
I asked you this question because to us, I think it feels we're not picking anybody in the West to beat Denver. Maybe Minnesota, they're very likable. I'm actually finding myself loving what Minnesota is. I know Gobert rubs people the wrong way, but I think even Rudy Gobert's gotten out of the way and just done what he's supposed to do. Cat's taken, his second fiddle role very well. Jaden McDaniels is emerging onto the scene, and Edwards didn't even play a great game, but I thought he played a good game. They're very likable. They're the complete polar opposite of what Phoenix is, who bitches and whines after every play.
The whole game.
Every moment. Their coach is doing it. They're a rudderless, leaderless ship right now. And we'll see if they can make this a series again because they're now down 2-0. They have to beat Minnesota 4 of the next 5 games. I don't know if I think that's going to happen.
Not happening.
But that being said, if we think Denver's just going to get right back to the finals, and Jokic is, probably a top 5 center already somehow, some way, and making even somebody like LeBron, and I'm sure in 20 years, Michael on his old age will have to make another Last Dance doc because he's scared that Jokic is now considered the GOAT. So how does he counter-program that? Well, let me tell you what I did back in my day.
It'd be a documentary about how good his horse racing is and how he's winning titles in NASCAR now, and Jokic can't do that.
As he's winning in horse, I'm winning in NASCAR.
That's right, real horsepower.
Right, yeah, I've got 300 horses. But Jokic and the Nuggets feel inevitable. I'm giving you 4 options here. Which player of these 4 options do you think is most likely, if at all, to disrupt what Denver has in Jokic for what seems like the foreseeable future? Mm-hmm. Because, as Ozzie Guillen once said, you don't want to get injured? Be fat. Muscle tears. Fat doesn't.
You can't pull fat.
And it was a funny thing that he said a couple weeks back about baseball players needing to be fat because these guys are too healthy and they're getting hurt all the time.
Yeah, basically said the White Sox players are in too good a shape right now.
And Jokic has a little bit of that doughy vibe. He's in great shape, but he's not necessarily svelte.
No, he's not at all.
So maybe he's got this run for the next 12 years because he's just doughy. Let me ask you, of these 4 players, which one would you pick to lead your team to try to overtake or think you can overtake eventually?
Yeah.
Ann Edwards, Luka Doncic, SGA, or Victor Wembanyama, who's not even in the playoffs this year?
I would go, it's kind of an easy answer for me, to be honest. Maybe it shouldn't be. Right now, it's Ann Edwards, and that would be my easy pick.
You've stunned me.
So
I thought he might be dead last of the picks that you would make.
For a couple of reasons. Wemby has the brightest future in terms of the player that he can become, right? Like, if you're just picking of those 4 players, who would you want to take and build a team around right now? Wemby, based off his rookie year, is probably the answer there. But we know in the NBA, and the same is true with Jokic, until you get a team around you, there's only so much that you can do. Is San Antonio going to go find another star for Wemby? Maybe. Maybe they get him in free agency. Maybe they pull off a trade. Maybe it's Trae Young. Maybe they land somebody in the draft because they were terrible this year. There's a chance that they do it, but they got to go find that guy. And until they do, Wemby's not winning anything of note in the NBA. He's just not. He'll be a great player. He'll be an elite player, but you got to have a team around you in order to do it, and he's the furthest away from that. SGA is a remarkable player, but if I were picking between him or Ann Edwards, I would take Ann Edwards over SGA, and I also think, despite where the win-loss records ended up in seeding in the playoffs, I think Ann Edwards has the better team around him right now and the more complete team around him than SGA. And Luka Doncic is a tremendous scorer. We all know his ability, and maybe Dallas surprises me this year. But I look at them as the same team problem of, I don't know if you got enough pieces in order to hang with Denver anytime soon. And adding to that roster is not going to be easy. Like, what assets do you have to play with to go get another stud? I think Minnesota's got a chance to do it this year. I genuinely do. I know Denver's going to be the overwhelming favorite in that series.
I was pretty impressed with them yesterday because they had bad. I thought he did a lot of other things for them, but he was not very good from the field. He couldn't find a shot.
3 of 12, dude. He couldn't make a shot until the 4th quarter.
Yeah, and
they won by going away.
Yeah, well, it helps when you get 25 from Jaden McDaniels.
Yeah. McDaniels went off. I think what is most impressive to me about Minnesota is their ability to play defense, their ability to lock in on that end. We know about Gobert and how he is. You mentioned Cat. I love that he's accepted that role because 5 years ago, Cat was the face of Minnesota. Now he's like second, third fiddle on Minnesota, which is the role that he should be in and should have been in his entire career. Their ability to lock in on the defensive end is something that I don't see from Dallas or Oklahoma City in the playoffs.
Yeah, but I think the tough part is Minnesota certainly looks like they might be able to push Denver. Now, beat Denver, I'm not going there. I'm not going to pick against what that is. That's championship pedigree.
I put a bet on it because I like the odds, and I think there's a flyer, but not a likely chance.
I guess I'm a little surprised because they're off to a great start in the playoffs, but it's the first round. I was just a little surprised that you would pick him. Like Luka, I almost put up a poll question last night. Of the 2 players, who would you pick? Ann Edwards and Luka. And last night would have been kind of an easy answer because Luka had a better game, statistically speaking, than Ann Edwards did. Mm-hmm. And I feel like most people, when pressed, would take Luka and not maybe even think twice about it. But SGA's sitting there as the 1 seed. And I know they didn't get off to maybe the greatest of starts in game 1, but we'll see if they can go up 2-0. Wemby would have. I thought you would have gone with Wemby.
I understand the argument for Wemby.
He had like I know, and Jokic had like 42 that night, but Wemby had like one of those crazy unicorn. Insane games against Denver just a few weeks ago.
He did. He's an unbelievable player. Who's going to be his running mate? And how long does it take to find that?
Well, but that's part of the gamble, right? Like, what if San Antonio, if they don't mess this thing up, does find the running mate?
Then it's terrifying. But you got to find that, and that's a lot easier said than done. Like, look at Jokic has been a tremendous player in the NBA for a long time.
Yeah.
They couldn't beat Portland in the second round of the playoffs. CJ McCollum torched him in Game 7.
Yeah.
Because he didn't. Who was his number 2? Jamal Murray wasn't quite that yet. They hadn't gotten Aaron Gordon yet.
That was one of their first real years as a team, I think, going to the postseason and learning that experience with the 4 overtime Rodney Hood game.
It's a process to get there, and Wemby he's going to have to go through that. Very few players.
Does he though? He's really different, man.
They won 20 games this year.
I know.
Dude. They're a long way.
I know.
He was unbelievable as a rookie, and they won like 20 games.
I understand.
Greg Popovich is 97 years old. He's going to combust into dust at some point. And who is their next head coach going to be?
Well.
And are they going to get that right?
Whoever Wemby wants, probably.
If Wemby is one of those
some French guy,
sure, some guy coming over drinking coffee. If he demands his trade and like goes to a different team where he's like teaming up with people, then Wemby's the easy answer. He's going to be dominant. He's the best player, arguably, of that crew. He needs to have a number 2 guy, and they don't have that.
Tyson Alger of the I-5 corridor, I thought, had a great tweet the other night. Portland should, and this was after that Murray hit the game winner. He tweeted, Portland should hang a banner that they beat Denver in a postseason.
We did it, people.
And, like, I know that's a joke, but if that team becomes like a three-peat, a dynasty, wins multiple, I don't know if it's awful. I don't know if that's an awful take.
It's not an awful take because we did that when Dallas won an NBA championship years ago, and we patted ourselves on the back for like 9 months because we played them the hardest in the first round.
Because Sean Marion once said,
Portland's a tough matchup there, first round, man. Brandon Roy went off.
If LeBron and the Heat were just so easy to get through for a championship.
I love Anthony Edwards, dude.
I do too.
I love watching him play. I love his style. I love how aggressive he is.
Is there anybody in that list you don't like? Because Lucas certainly comes off as kind of a whiny little...
I want to punch him in the face. He's a tremendous player, but I want to punch him in the face. I also think he's a sieve defensively. Anthony Edwards is not.
I thought he was okay yesterday.
I mean,
one game.
Dude, yeah, it's one game. But there were a couple of possessions I was like, what does he do defensively? And he's just like floating around, not rotating to a guy, drifting down into the paint. And then he would grab a rebound on a missed shot and run the fast break. SGA is great. He's more of a foul seeker, though. Anthony Edwards is so unique because he didn't really start playing basketball until later in his life. He was a football guy, kind of came out of nowhere as a number 1 overall pick. I remember that being somewhat of a controversial number 1 pick, too. Like, this guy really only popped for a year or two. Like, are we really doing this?
And Georgia didn't go to the tourney.
Jordan didn't go on this long run. He has gotten He's been in the league for 4 years. He's only 22 years old, and he has gotten exponentially better every year that he's been in the league.
If I post the same question on Twitter, who wins it, though?
Probably Wemby.
Probably Wemby, right?
Probably.
And who do you think gets second? Because I think it's Luka. People love Luka.
Yeah.
He's child prodigy from Europe, won the EuroLeague, played in it since he was like 16. And I'm both bothered by Luka, but I also can acknowledge what Gundy said yesterday on Twitter. When he kind of turns into a whiny little bee is actually when he plays better.
Yeah, he got that tech on the and one, or thought he should have had an and one. He
wasn't wrong. He
did
get fouled on that play.
He did get fouled.
SGA, no love.
No love for SGA.
Yeah.
No love at all.
Seems like it's going to be very hard for a team like Oklahoma City. And I know they got to a finals with KD, Harden, and Westbrook years ago, but
they did.
It's such a tough market to keep your talent in.
Yeah, you got the small market mindset. How do we keep our guys around? Maybe Durant is the answer this offseason for them. I don't know. Yeah. But good luck with that. I would look at it right now and say, and this is way overreactionary, watching Dallas for 2 games, watching OKC for a game, and watching Minnesota for 2 games.
Minnesota looks like the best team.
It's not even close of who you think would push Denver. Now, I'm not saying you think they're gonna beat them, but Dallas has shown me nothing to say, yes, I think that team can take down Jokic in the playoffs. Nothing so far.
Unfortunately, I would love to see a Minnesota-Dallas series.
I would, too.
McDaniels on Luka, and Edwards occasionally on Luka.
That'd be great.
Back and forth. And by the way, Minnesota, not a hotbed for hoops in terms of the fan base caring all that much because their owners sucked for so long. Damn, it's just isn't it amazing when a team is really good and likable, how much energy that provides to an arena? I don't know. I didn't check any of the post-game quotes from the players. they had to have given those fans a ton of credit because they didn't even play their best game.
No.
And their best player couldn't hit a shot.
Nope.
And it felt like the energy of that crowd was like helping lift a Conley three or helping push and kind of motivate a McDaniels. An awesome just sight to see yesterday when they went 2-0 against Phoenix.
I know we're against it. Last two thoughts for me on this. I'm sure we'll do a little more NBA next because I got to get to my Quake take. But two teams that we're talking about right now who made really risky trades that were made fun of at the time that they made them. Minnesota to go get Gobert. That was a universal reaction of what the hell are you doing? You gave up that for Rudy Gobert. That was the reaction.
And 5 first-round picks?
It was insane. And you already have a setter. Why would you do that? And here they are looking pretty damn good. And then Dallas, who did it with Kyrie Irving. Why would you risk it with a guy who was unreliable, can't count on him, he's flaming out everywhere he goes, and we'll see what happens. Maybe Dallas loses in the first round. We get this, we'll have to wait and see on that take. But two teams that took a chance, they took a risk. It's funny how sometimes that works out. I wish Portland would try it sometime.
Dirt's got hoop Quake takes, and we got some audio to get to from the association. We have more college football to get to, a scout's thoughts on Caleb. All of that is ahead. Dirt and Sprague on the Fan.
This is Draft Week with Dirt and Sprague
Brought to you by Crunch Fitness.
on 1080 The Fan.
Caleb Williams reminds this scout of a musical performer, and it's not a compliment. We'll get to that coming up at the bottom of the hour. Dirt, you said some Quake takes. I got audio from last night's association stuff. You said you have some Quake takes, basketball related.
I have an NBA Quake take.
You only have one.
Only one Quake take.
I thought
today.
you teased multiple takes.
No, I mean the take might turn into multiple
Might
takes.
be aftershocks
because it's like there's a ripple effect.
It's a
here.
massive Quake take. Could be a 5.0.
I think Devin Booker is one of the more overrated players in the NBA.
God, that's a bad take.
Dude was nothing until they got Chris Paul. They go to the finals. He was put on this pedestal of one of the best players in the league. They haven't been back since. He's been teamed up with elite players the last 4 years. He's a high-volume scorer that does nothing else to impact the game. He's not a leader, and his team's about to get swept out of the first round of the playoffs. Dude is overrated, and I'm tired of him going for 70 in the regular season and pretending like Devin Booker's one of these all-time great scorers. Get the hell out of here. He's almost 30 years old.
Would you want him in Portland?
No, I don't want him.
Oh, God.
I don't want him. I mean, of course I would now. Our team sucks. He's better than anybody on our roster. That doesn't say much. Is he better than the Charlotte Hornets? Is that the barrier you're trying to break here?
Swag, what does the Richter scale say of that Quake take? Devin Booker, what did you say?
He's one of the more overrated players in the NBA.
Okay. Is this a 6? Is this a 7?
No. Buildings aren't coming down.
Wow.
You agree with me a little bit here.
We're in the 4.5 to 5
If we're 4.5, that's not a big take. Swigard's agreeing.
You feel it. It's more than a minor tremor aftershock.
It's a New York earthquake.
Yeah.
A bottle of wine broke.
Our chairs fell over.
Yeah, some things are falling off the shelf, but glass windows aren't being broken. Buildings aren't crumbling.
Okay.
We hold everybody to the standard of like, what have you won? This guy has been teamed up with.
He's been to a finals.
He has. When he got teamed up with elite players, they lost in the finals. Then he got teamed up with Kevin Durant, and they're going to get swept in the first round of the playoffs.
So you view the situation of him, whereas like I view it of like kind of Kevin Durant.
Why is it not on Devin Booker? Why do we not blame Devin Booker? If we're going to make fun of Kevin Durant for getting swept in the first round, why did we not do that to Devin Booker? What did he do last night?
Well, look, he has
down 1-0 in the series, big game. He was no show.
He's largely not done anything in the series in
No.
2 games. But at the start of his career, he has to be on just an awful organization. The owner's leaving goat crap in the general manager's office because he hates him.
I think that's called motivation, Bob.
Well, neither one of those people are there anymore, including the owner who put the goat crap in the office. The other one's an Odyssey NBA insider.
Friend of the program, by the way.
But you have to take into account like where you get picked, right? What organization? We talk about NFL quarterbacks. Why do guys succeed and not succeed? Some guys just never going to be good. Other guys succeed because they go to perfect situations. He had to go to that.
He did.
He had to go to Phoenix.
I don't blame him.
At the bottom of the gutter.
I don't blame him for the first 4 years. First 4 years are off limits. I don't blame him for that.
And then they finally get him some talent. They get DeAndre Ayton. They go and get Chris Paul. They go to a finals. Going to a finals, we cannot just highlight, well, he couldn't win the finals or he lost the championship. It has to matter that you can get to a finals. It's so hard to get to a finals.
I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I'm saying how close is he to getting to another one? Because they're not going to one anytime soon.
He's within the top 6 of the Western Conference. I mean, this series, to me, I think it's over. But it's not over yet. Can we at least let him try to defend home court first?
No, I'm not letting him get
What if
there.
they win 2 and they tie the series?
I'm not letting him get there.
And they look good doing it. What is the Quake take then?
I don't trust Phoenix as far as I could throw him.
I don't
He's
either.
shooting 25% from 3. He's
Yes.
been non-existent through 2 games. And Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves have punked them the first 2 games of the series.
Well, he talked about the frustration within his team in the postgame last night.
Yeah, my frustration is just, within the team. We need to execute. We play well when we're playing well, and then, we need to stick together once things turn bad. And like I said, we've done that throughout the season, so, it's something that has to be corrected.
I will acknowledge, while I don't agree fully with the Quake take, I like the boldness of the take.
I just find it hilarious that
I've been disappointed in him for sure. I've seen that dude, even in losses, like last year. I've seen him play him and like, it's not him.
No.
That's certainly not something I'm worried about. It's how do I fill in all the other stuff? Now, the problem is they traded all these picks for KD, so they have no future picks. I believe, if I heard correctly, they're in the second apron. So, like, financially,
they definitely are. With the Beal contract added to it, of course they are.
They're absolutely screwed financially. The only thing they can do on this roster to change anything is trade.
Yeah.
That is all of their options. And, oh, by the way, stealth thing that flew under the radar that nobody talked about, they're kind of being shadow run by Isaiah Thomas, the guy who got hit with sexual harassment at the Knicks because he's on the board of Ishbia's company helping advise them because, you know, Isaiah Thomas knows so much about mortgage lending, and it's like, that's not good.
I want to know Isaiah Thomas takes on interest rates. I think my take
They're
is
too high. They're
my take is largely coming from, I hate how we treat different players differently. And just by that, I mean, I don't know if Phoenix is going to get swept. Tongue in cheek, I do think Minnesota's going to win the series. Will it be in 4, 5, 6, or 7? I don't know. I think Minnesota's going to win the series. They're the better team. They're the more complete team. What's the reaction to Kevin Durant if they lose in 5 in the first round of the playoffs? What's the national narrative around Kevin Durant? What is everybody saying about Kevin Durant?
Well, this is the problem. Kevin Durant is of people when he was with Golden State wanted to put him at the same stature as LeBron.
And that was dumb.
And then he left it. He went to Brooklyn.
Right.
And they got swept, I believe, in the first round of one of his seasons there. Yeah. And I feel like I heard...
He came a millimeter away from beating the Bucks the year they won, but that was
we love to highlight his close loss, but we don't want to talk about how he got swept out in the prime of his career. Now, you can say, well, post-injury, he was still averaging like 30 points a game.
Yeah.
He was still top end. And we did not say anything about that. But LeBron is going to lose in round 1, maybe by the sweep of Jokic, and it's going to be the top ESPN story for 2 days.
Look, I agree with everything that you're saying there. Kevin Durant does need to be held to a higher standard. I'm just arguing so does Devin Booker. Like, if we're going to sit here and act like this guy's one of the best players in the league, which I think is probably a wide-held opinion.
Pretty widely
He's
held,
had 70-point games. He's averaged nearly 30 a game for a couple of years in a row. To your point, he's been to an NBA Finals. It's hilarious to me that if they lose in the first round and they get swept in embarrassing fashion, which I think there's a chance could happen, Kevin Durant is going to be mocked endlessly for that. Endlessly. Like,
I don't think he will.
Well, he should. He will be on this show.
It'll be about, is Kevin Durant going to ask for a trade now to go to a different team?
And we're all going to make fun of him for that because he's going to go jump to Minnesota. Those tweets were already out there last night. My next journey. And it was him standing in front of a Timberwolves logo or the white shirt with the Timberwolves logo on it. Where you're talking about him going to OKC. Like, we're going to make fun of him for that. Devin Booker's supposed to be one of the best players in the playoffs, and he's just going to skate. We're just going to forget about him and not mention the fact that he also got swept in the first round of the playoffs. He's a volume scorer that does nothing else to impact the game.
The problem with the take is everybody can see the situation, and while there certainly is expectation, they were a trendy pick to win round 1 by a lot, and I'm like, it's because they beat Minnesota 3 times in the regular season, so we took that instead of saying, hey, how did the year go for both of the teams?
How do they actually match up? Who was playing in those games when they played?
Yeah, Minnesota's pretty good this year. Yep. I don't know if you followed it, but I know most people didn't because it's the regular season NBA. The thing with Devin is you can look at that roster, and it's not meant as an out for him. I've, again, been disappointed by his performance. I also think Minnesota's done a lot to throw multiple bodies at him because, well, who else beats him?
Bradley Beal ain't doing it right now.
Grayson Allen's injured now.
Yep.
It ain't Bradley Beal. Yusuf Nurkic certainly is not doing anything offensively. Who is it? This is the only reason I could not mentally grasp the why you take Phoenix over Minnesota stuff.
Yeah.
Who on Phoenix if Booker's getting 2 at him? Who's beating you?
I mean, it should be Kevin Durant.
Okay, but it's not. So who is it?
They got nobody else.
Okay, so it seems like it's not, to me, a Booker problem. It feels like it's a roster construction problem, and they gave up all of the assets because they wanted multiple Blazers from garbage-ass seasons, and they wanted Bradley Beal. Seems like pretty flawed roster construction to me.
They got the Shaq at Troutdale. That should be enough, first off. A lot of this does come from the little brother syndrome of Portland and the way Damian Lillard was talked about. And this pushed idea that Devin Booker was somehow better than him or deserved more recognition than him because he got to a finals, when the reality was he was just on a better team. They put a better group around him than Lillard ever had, and that helped benefit. Booker was great, and he's been good at times. He was really good last year in the playoffs too, but he's always had more talent around him, and that's been my larger frustration.
An NFL scout uses a legendary musician, beloved, to trash Caleb Williams Very interesting reporting coming on this. We'll get to that coming up next. We got some college football news and notes to get to. We got Statter Story at 8:15. Dirt and Sprague back with more, but first, Swag with the Sports Update.
This is Draft Week with Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by Crunch Fitness.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Brought to you by Crunch Fitness. Memberships as low as $9.99 per month. Find your Crunch time in Portland, Vancouver, and online at crunch.com. First on The Fan, road teams finally breaking through in the NBA playoffs after 12 straight home wins. Pacers first to do it by shooting 55%, getting a triple-double from Pascal Siakam to beat the Bucks 125-108. They'll head back to Indy for games 3 and 4. Then it was Dallas with Luka and Kyrie combining for 55 points. Kawhi Leonard did return to the Clippers lineup, only had 15. The Mavericks grind out a 96-93 Game 2 win, going back to Dallas, tied at 1-all. Timberwolves, they remain perfect at home, 2-0, pulling away from the Suns in the second half, 55-42 after the break, 105-93 the final, and they have a 2-0 series lead. A pair of Game 2s tonight. We'll start in Boston. Celtics up on the Heat 1-0. Not much faith in Miami, according to the bookmakers. They're 14.5-point underdogs. Tip set for 4 o'clock. The Nightcaps in Oklahoma City. Pelicans trying to even up that series with the Thunder. 6:30 tip. In OKC, they're a 7.5-point favorite. Both games on TNT. 9th-ranked Oregon State baseball team ended their 4-game losing streak Tuesday night playing at Hillsborough Ballpark. They beat the Portland Pilots 7-2 and now get set to host number 18 Oregon for a weekend series starting Friday night. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigart from the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand at the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
Tired of getting dinged by subscriptions? We won't send you a bill. This is Draft Week with Dirt and Sprague
Brought to you by Crunch Fitness.
on 1080 The Fan.
Who? We'll get to that coming. A little college football coming up in a few moments. Transfer portal notes, some audio that one fan base won't like. There's music to my ears, though. Let's get to this, though. The NFL draft is tomorrow, and we all know who the number one pick in the draft is going to be. We all know it. It's Caleb Williams. No shocker. He's showing up. He's going to get his name called. The Bears will probably make us wait 10 minutes, but he's going to be the number one pick in the draft.
I would you got a few players that fall into this category. I would argue we've known about this for over a year.
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
not even a debate. Like, hey, maybe it's this guy, maybe it's this position. No. It's that guy.
Caleb Williams has been the guy, and he has been the guy for a long time, to your point. I still have mixed emotions on him. I don't view him the same way I have viewed, or I guess I should say that some people view him as this can't-miss prospect, put him in the Andrew Luck category. Some people put him there. I'm just not quite there. I'm curious to see how it works out in the NFL. Dave Fleming, what podcast is this from?
Pablo Torre finds out.
The Pablo Torre podcast. He got a quote from a scout on Caleb Williams, and he relayed the message, and we quite enjoyed this. Here is what an NFL scout told Dave Fleming about Caleb Williams.
And I reached out to a guy who's really well-connected, a former scout, really well-connected across the NFL with GMs and front offices, and I was blown away by his reaction.
What did the scout tell you that you can report?
I hated it. He would scare the shit out of me if I was working for a team. Raw emotion is great, but Caleb's thing, that was ridiculous to me. That threw up major red flags. You just lost a game in the middle of your fucking season, and it was like your third loss in the Pac-12, and you went hugging on mommy and crying in mommy's arms, and it just seems really freaking weak and nuts. And I will tell you, he scares the shit out of a lot of NFL teams, too. The book on him is he's just kind of a weird kid. One GM told me it's like if Prince played quarterback.
So being Prince is not a good thing.
Two-part follow-up. One, how do you feel if Prince is your franchise quarterback? And two, crying with mommy after a college game. Red flag? Red flag or not?
I think every franchise just wants 1 year of Purple Rain.
1 year?
I think that's all you're looking for.
I mean, are we playing Charlie Murphy in hoops here? Or are we,
what's going on?
How do we feel about that?
I'm going to beat you and then get pancakes. What a wild thing to tell somebody. And look, my favorite part of draft time, aside from how many bad takes we all have and opinions on players we know nothing about, is all of the anonymous quotes to just say the most outlandish things because they know it's an anonymous quote.
Mommy!
Well, I mean, look, that thing happened. I forget, who did they lose to in that game? Was that the...
Oh, God.
I forgot what game that was.
Might have been the Washington game that he cried after.
I couldn't remember, but...
they lost a handful of games this year.
We talked about that in the moment and how that looked, and I'm not shocked to hear that didn't resonate with scouts or former scouts or general managers. The thing about this is, though, that...
Yeah, it was the Husky game. He ran into the crowd and cried in her arms.
You get to and the funny thing about that was I think he made fun of Max Dugan, remember, for crying at the press conference and basically was like, you can't be doing this. And then the very next season he's crying in his mom's arms.
And Max Dugan took a shot at him when he did that.
You're finding and nitpicking every possible thing that you can with these guys. It's what the draft makes you do is you find a moment of weakness or a moment of questionable decision-making, and sometimes you extrapolate that into an entire thought and opinion on a player. And it's why when we look at percentages of positions, some of these guys don't hit. That person could certainly be right. There could be some major red flags here. I don't care if he goes into Sunday with his nails painted or his phone case is bright purple or pink. Man, can you make the pass that splits to the two defenders for the touchdown? I've seen him do it.
Yes, he has.
And he certainly has moments where I think he kind of gets himself in trouble. As one person noted in one of the mocks I read yesterday, they think he loves to improvise so much that sometimes he kind of creates chaos when he doesn't always need to. And I actually agree with that.
That's my take on him. That's my big fear.
But so does number 15 in Kansas City.
I know.
No, I'm just saying. I'm not saying he's going to be.
We got to stop Michael Jordan.
Okay, but like saying that doesn't mean I'm saying he's going to be Mahomes. But prior to winning the Super Bowl this year, it was one of the only things you could knock Kansas City on is that dude didn't hang in the pocket very long.
Mm-hmm.
He held on to the football for too long a time. And at a certain point in the regular season, it cost him turnovers. So I think just uttering a name that's amazing, we got to stop reacting to the instant, you uttered a name. That doesn't mean I'm comping him to Patrick Mahomes. I think he's got some similarities. I don't think it'll mean he's going to be Mahomes. But there is some of that. Just some guys thrive. And I don't know what his high school career was like. I'd imagine he was successful.
Yeah, I mean, he was like number one high school coming out of number one quarterback coming out of high school.
He's been playing this way since high school. He played that way at Oklahoma. He played that way at USC. It's just kind of in his nature. It's the way he plays the game. I like him, but this is the time of year we find every little thing to knock him down a peg to say, nope, can't be the guy. Okay, good luck, though. I mean, maybe he is the guy, and then what do you say to it?
I mean, I laughed out loud when you played that yesterday. We were going to get to it on the show, and we kind of ran out of time, carried it over for today, because I think it's kind of a spot-on analysis of just I'm not scared S-less like that GM or scout said, but he is a weird dude. Like, he's just a little off, and that doesn't mean it's a bad thing, doesn't mean he can't be good in the NFL. The scene of a quarterback crying in his mom's arms.
With his helmet still on.
Still on, like jumping into like purposefully finding her, jumping into the stands and crying in her arms when they had, I think that was their fourth loss of the season.
No, it was his third. That's what
third,
he did
third,
that
and
after the third Pac-12
like, your
loss.
season's over. You're not winning a Pac-12 title. It's one thing to cry after losing a national championship and you're on the bench, undefeated season, like Penix crying after losing to Michigan. I don't know if he did or not, but it's like, that's relatable. We've all been in that moment. Big game. It's come to an end. Like, you still have 4 more regular season games and you're not winning anything of significance and you're just bawling in your mom's eyes. It was kind of a weird look at the time. But I look, he's going to be the number 1 overall pick. What do we think the conversation is about him in a year? Like, project forward. What are we saying? What's the narrative around Caleb Williams? Because you had 2 rookies last year taken. One of them you could not feel better about in C.J. Stroud. One of them you could not feel worse about than Bryce Young. Now, he's not going to a situation that is as bad as Carolina. Carolina was a terrible spot.
Yeah.
So that's part of the reason Bryce Young was terrible, to be fair to him. Are we somewhere in the middle, or are we talking about him the way we're talking about C.J. Stroud?
Well, Stroud's season, because it was, record-breaking and they got the divisional round, I think, unfortunately for Caleb, there's going to be a lot of noise of that's the comp because of how much we've been talking about this dude and for how long we've been talking about him.
He was great right out of the gate. That doesn't usually happen.
If you made it a meter where Bryce Young is on one end of the I don't want to see that, and C.J. Stroud is at the other end of like this is
scenario.
As good as it could be,
yeah.
I think he tilts more Stroud, but hitting Stroud, I just think that's an unrealistic thing. Everything worked perfectly, and Stroud, he wasn't taken number 1, and even at number 2, people were like, really?
Yeah.
And I just think it's too much of an expectation to go that high of a rookie quarterback. I slightly disagree with you. I think Chicago can be a 7-seed wildcard team who doesn't win a playoff game next year. If they take a receiver, too, if they get Dunze, for example, they're going to have 3 receivers, a tight end. You'd imagine they're going to, offensive line was shaky.
Can they run the ball? Justin Fields was their leading rusher last year.
He was, but their coach is defensive heavy. They made the trade for the lineman. Blanket. I think it was Sweat that they got on defense, at the defensive line to bolster that. I think they feel encouraged about defense because that's the identity of that coach. If he can just go in there and be who he was at USC, and we certainly know that's not how it always goes, why can't they be in the conversation for a playoff spot, a wild card spot, a 7 seed? I think they can be. I'd tilt more towards Stroud than I would Young. Young went to the worst situation.
Yeah.
I also didn't like him at all. I don't think Houston is what Houston is last year with Bryce Young.
No, I don't. I think we would feel better about Bryce Young, but they're not as good. He is clearly not the prospect that C.J. Stroud was. And size and strength and all that stuff plays into it. Bryce Young is an undersized guy.
Which is crazy because if you go back and check college resume, Young got all the flowers because he played at Bama.
Yeah.
Yeah, what did he – I mean, to Bama standards, what did he accomplish? And then also, like, Stroud was carving up Georgia.
He was.
We're killing Penix.
He also couldn't beat Michigan, though.
Okay.
That was a knock
That was
on
Stroud's fault. Yeah.
He couldn't be Michigan.
Yeah, it wasn't. Okay.
That's what we do with quarterbacks, though, is it not? I mean, that's the way we play the game. If you win the game, we give you credit, and if you lose, we blame you. That's the way it works.
But Penix had a bad game against Michigan. We're killing him for it, but it's like Stroud carved up Georgia. Who cares? They lost. He's like, okay, all right. He's 6'3". He's got a good arm.
I'm fascinated to see how his style of play fits in the NFL because I see you're not comparing him to Mahomes. I understand why that analogy is made. I'm just like, how does that work? He's an undersized guy. He's going to run around a ton. Is he as athletic? Does he look as athletic in the NFL
He
as
says
he does
he's
in
as
college?
tall as Aaron Rodgers, by the way.
We'll see. Yeah.
Do you have any size concerns of Aaron Rodgers? I've never heard anybody talk about that.
No, I also don't view him that tall, but I've never stood next to Aaron Rodgers. I've stood next to Caleb Williams, but not Aaron Rodgers. And he's a prince, according to one NFL scout. So there you go. I love that take about him crying in his mom's arms.
Back-to-back Quake takes in sports.
Quake takes, dude. I love it. Hey, let's get to some more portal news. Do you believe now? Also, a rough day for Jonathan Smith, and one fan base not happy. That's next on The Fan.
Who's stinking it up?
Woo! Do not go in there.
It's time for Who's Stinking It Up, a sports lowlight that's ripped from the headlines.
We couldn't do diddly poo.
Brought to you by Three Mountains Plumbing. Schedule your appointment online at threemountainsplumbing.com.
There's going to be ups and downs in every game on the road, but that's the biggest thing is we got to, stay connected, stay together, and play the game like we've been there before.
There's Dame Lillard post-game. He's got 8 total points in 2 second halves. The Bucks fall to the Pacers last night. Tied 1. They go back to Indiana Friday. And it doesn't look like Giannis is going to be returning for their next 2 games.
No, I think if you just get a split in Indiana, you feel okay. That was always the point for Milwaukee. Just extend, find a way to survive. You got to split. Go get one in Indiana. Hopefully he's back for Game 5, and the Bucks will be just fine.
Who's stinking it up? Dame's second half games and them being tied at 1 after last night's loss. Brought to you by Three Mountains Plumbing. Make plumbing and electrical services delightful. Get your time back with the pros. Tackle the projects you need completed. Schedule an appointment online. Three Mountains Plumbing. That's threemountainsplumbing.com.
It's the Vancouver Go! Where Dirt and Sprague crunch the hot topics you want to hear.
What's the pressure? Don't sit here and act like there's no... We get nervous teeing off in front of a gallery on the 10th hole at Eastmoreland.
Crunch Time, brought to you by Crunch Fitness, with memberships as low as $9.99 per month. Find your Crunch Time in Portland, Vancouver, and online at crunch.com.
Crunch Time, brought to you by Crunch Fitness. Memberships as low as $9.99 per month. Find your Crunch Time in Portland, Vancouver, or online at crunch.com. Wanted to read a thought here at the Vancouver Ford text line. You can interact with us there the entire show, 503-864-6326. We're also live on YouTube every single morning. And we were up today. Everybody's arguing. Jake, the hater, says that Prince can only play for the Ravens, which I think is a pretty valid take.
Yeah.
You gotta be purple. And this one came in reading, and I quote, Caleb Williams is the first real Gen Z to be a franchise leader. The nails painted and okay being emotional is how they grew up. It's going to take Gen X, Millennial, and Boomer GMs and coaches some time to get used to it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's
a Gen Z problem.
Well, it's a good point, though. He's kind of the first
Drake May is
representation
younger than Caleb Williams.
Yeah, but like in terms of
modern
spotlight,
stereotypes,
culture, up to date on pop culture stuff, like Caleb more represents that stuff than Drake May from North Carolina does.
Drake May
strikes me as I can't wait to be on that NASCAR race or Sunday. And that's fine if that's who you are, but I think that's a good point of like it's a different generation. I, as a millennial, will say, don't care. I think he's really good at football. Paint your nails whatever color you want.
Just
Hopefully
win.
the team colors would be great.
Yeah, just win.
But yeah, he wears Elton John glasses with bell-bottom pants and like has a Louis Vuitton Merce.
He does.
And a pink phone case.
Yes, he does.
So what?
Yes, he does.
Is he good at playing football?
Here's the sad part.
You know, if he's not good, this is why he's not going to be good for people, right?
100%.
Everybody's going to point to those things. This was our first sign it wasn't going to work. And it's going to be him at a USC women's game
You can't bet your nails.
with a pink phone case.
This is 100% the ammunition that will be used. I would say, like, I don't disagree with the overall take of the generational thing. I do think there are divides, and I even feel it. I'm 35 years old, and even I feel it with some of the pink phone case, nail stuff, outfits that guys wear. I can't relate to that. So I have a hard time, and I understand where the GMs and coaches might be struggling with it. The only thing that I would say, though, is that we do the dumbest stuff around the NFL draft. And this is another one of those kind of takes of like, you know, at the end of the day, who really does care that he's crying in his mom's arms? That has nothing to do with him being an NFL quarterback, successful or not. We did this like Justin Herbert coming out. The red flags were there were no red flags. That was a thing for a while. There's no red flags. Should that concern us? I don't know.
I always thought that was the Mariota thing. I always thought
Mariota
Herbert's
was like he's too nice.
Mariota didn't read the field. He's not a loud leader.
Sure, Mariota's too nice. Should that be concerning to us? Can you be an NFL franchise quarterback if you're nice? If you're nice to your teammates, huh? Can you do that? It's like it's that we find dumb things to nitpick. So some of it is generational right now, but like we're doing this to every quarterback in the draft process.
So does that make Joe Burrow of all the ones the last like handful of years the best one? Because I want my guys smoking stogies.
That's right, winning natties.
I want my wide receivers, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. I want them to love this guy. He's got to have the coiffed perfect hair. I want him to have the swagger. I want him wearing outfits that make me go, oh, I don't know if you could pull that off. And he looks at me and says, I can pull it off. Is that what we're after?
This is what we're doing.
The one thing that these guys have to evaluate is the mental makeup of the athlete.
Yes. How are you going to handle failure and shortcomings? Because there will be a lot of them in the National Football League.
So while it might not be a big deal to a lot of people out there that Caleb's crying in his mom's arms, I think the general thought of that general manager or scout, whatever, is kind of spot on with a lot of others in that league of like, what happens when you lose in week 3? How many weeks are you going to cry in mom's arms?
What if he does? What if he loses his first NFL game and he runs to the stands and cries with his mom?
Then I will have to believe he was raised on gentle parenting. That will be my takeaway.
At what point can we make fun of the crying? Like if that becomes a yearly thing, can we make fun of it?
If it becomes a weekly thing, yes.
Like they lose to the Cardinals in week 1, he's screaming in row 1.
But you asked me where are we at a year from now? What if they win? What did they win this year? 7 games?
I believe they were 7-9 this year.
It'd be up to 7-10 because you play
7 and 10.
games.
My apologies. Yeah.
Let's say they win 7 games.
7-10 again.
But it looks different. He looks good.
Yeah.
They lost a game or two because he threw a pick or something, which is a rookie quarterback thing. But they're 7-10 again, but you're not looking at him going, oh, I'm worried. It's other areas.
Sure.
What are we saying a year from now? What do you think we're saying a year from now?
I think if the picture that you paint out is the way that it goes, I think you're feeling great. You and I just disagree a little bit on Caleb, but also a little bit on the Bears. Like, I look at their late season resurgence as they beat a lot of really bad teams in the mix. Like Carolina was one of their wins. Minnesota without Kirk Cousins was one of their wins. Atlanta was one of the worst teams in the NFL.
But you don't view them as a good team currently. So the point I would make is those wins is they're handling the worst teams than them.
They're starting to win games that they should win.
They're doing the thing that they should do. Now,
Yeah.
they did that with Fields. We'll see if they do it with Caleb.
I think a lot of it, if you go 7-10, a lot of it depends on how does Caleb look in the process? Is he the reason you're losing games? Is he the reason you're winning games? Is he just along for the ride and a little bit somewhere in the middle? I think if you go 7-10 and he has okay numbers, you're not panicking in any way, shape, or form. I think CJ Stroud is the outlier, and rookie quarterbacks rarely ever come in and look that way right out of the gate. Even use Joe Burrow as an example, who went to Cincinnati. This year 2, he's in the NFL, he's in the Super Bowl. Go look at Joe Burrow in year 1 before he got hurt. There were a couple of moments and a couple of flashes, but it was a lot of ugly games and a lot of picks. It doesn't look good usually for guys right out of the gate. So don't use CJ Stroud as the example, because that is an outlier, and also part of it is the schedule that Houston played. And I'm really curious to see what the conversation is about CJ Stroud in Houston a year from now.
Well, they're also in a really bad division.
They're a terrible division, and they're going to get a first-place schedule now for winning that division. And so how does that look a year from now? I'm just curious. So I think we're somewhere in the middle between Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, which I think if you're Chicago, you feel perfectly fine about if that's where you're at a year from now and you don't make the playoffs, but you're somewhere in the mix.
Well, I think
maybe late in the
Chicago
season.
themselves actually wants him to be CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
They've never had a franchise quarterback.
They have never had a franchise quarterback. Those are big expectations to live up to in year 1 in the NFL. I didn't get to my college football notes. We'll start the final hour with that. Some fun with audio. Statter story coming up at 8:15. Get you set for the night in sports. Loaded final hour. Don't go anywhere. Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
Ready to get started?
KFXX, KWJJ, HD2, Portland, and Odyssey Sports Station. Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, it took 13 games in the NBA playoffs, but finally a road team broke through. The Pacers get a win in Milwaukee, 125-108. Pascal Siakam with a triple-double. The Pacers shoot 55%. And will head home for games 3 and 4, tied at a game apiece. Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving combined for 55. Kawhi Leonard was held to just 15 in his return to the Clippers lineup. Mavericks grind out a 96-93 Game 2 win on the road. They go back to Dallas, tied at 1-1. Timberwolves, well, they're perfect at home, 2-0. They pulled away from the Suns in the second half again, outscoring Phoenix 55-42 after the break, 105-93 the final, and a 2-0 series lead. 2 more Game 2s tonight in the NBA playoffs. First up, Boston, 4 o'clock tip. They blew out the Heat in Game 1. They're 14.5-point favorites over Miami in Game 2. The nightcap's in Oklahoma City, where the Pelicans try to even things up with the Thunder. 6:30 tip. OKC is 7.5-point favorite. Both those games can be seen on TNT. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigard from the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand at the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
More, please. Golf in the Northwest with Jason Swigard is back. Saturdays at 8 a.m. before the Sinner and the Saint on Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan. Big busts.
With the first pick in the 2007 NFL Draft, the Oakland Raiders select quarterback Jamarcus Russell, LSU.
And high-value picks.
With the 262nd pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Brock Purdy, a quarterback from Iowa State.
This is a Draft Week edition of Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by Crunch Fitness, celebrating 35 years of fitness with a party on Tuesday, April 30th from 4 to 7 p.m. at Aloha, Beaverton, Division Center, and Vancouver Plaza.
Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
Hey, let's do this. Final hour. Dirt and Sprague here on Portland Sports Leader, 1080 The Fan, 99.5 HD2, the Odyssey app, and live on YouTube. Call me. I'll come over and eat it. I bet it's delightful. Got a lot to get to in the final hour of the show.
That sounds live sometimes, and it kind of throws me off.
Let me put that into like a Caleb Williams take. We didn't make him painting his fingernails. Call me. I'll come over and eat it. What? I bet it's delightful. What? Doesn't make any sense. We got a lot to get to in the final hour. Status story coming up at 8:15. We'll get you set for tonight in sports. We are on NFL Draft Eve, as that is officially tomorrow. Very excited for the first round tomorrow night.
Oh, we're all going to be glued to the first round.
100% we will. Everything else is going to take a break. I'm already having a hard time juggling hockey playoffs, basketball playoffs, and vaguely trying to follow my baseball team, which is just impossible to do all three in the same
you guys
night.
Beat the Mets.
Hey, 2 in a row, baby. Yeah, going for a sweep today. It's just I can't do it, and now you're going to throw the NFL draft into the mix. I'm overwhelmed.
I know you're going to get to the portal and college stuff here, so I'll just ask you, if we could do a top 10 in college football portal drafting, like Ohio State has the first pick. Would you watch to see
Yes.
which players go in what order?
I absolutely would.
Okay.
I think that'd be yes.
A minimum $2 million buy-in for the top players, and so it's whatever programs qualify for that are in the top 10.
Well, let's ask the question then. If you had the number 1 overall pick, would you take Colorado running back Dylan Edwards, who was one of their better players last year, randomly entering the portal yesterday? So much for Deion's, what did we lose? What did we lose? Huh? You believe now? And Derek Harmon at Michigan State, the defensive tackle, who's one of the better defensive tackles in the country. He entered the portal when Jonathan Smith was hired. They enticed him to get out of the portal. They just played their spring game, and now he's back in the transfer portal. Number 1 overall pick. Do you take Derek Harmon, defensive lineman, or Dylan Edwards, who was really fun to watch last year at Colorado?
I don't think Edwards would be a number 1 pick for me. It's a running back spot. The system where he goes is interesting because he's a good player. There's no doubt. I would take Harmon. Who's going to have a worse year next year, Jonathan Smith or Deion Sanders?
From a win-loss standpoint,
I want to say Sparty's lost 13 defensive players since Smith got there.
It has not been good. And the argument
Now,
that,
they weren't good last year, so you can just say, well, that's a team of not good players leaving.
But who are you replacing them with?
And I think that's part of the problem is it doesn't appear to be a lot of amazing players coming in.
I think Dion can get to 5-7 this year if Shedeur and Travis Hunter stay healthy. I just don't think much of the Big 12.
I mean, Utah, Arizona, Oklahoma State has Ollie Gordon. I mean, they were 4-8.
I know.
1-8 in conference
I'm only giving
play.
them one more win. That's all I'm giving them.
5 and
I think 5-7 is doable for Dion.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's doable for Jonathan Smith at Michigan State.
To get 5 wins?
I don't know.
Have you seen their non-conference?
I have not. I'm going to pull it up right now.
Okay.
I know they play Oregon early in the season in Autzen. They ain't winning that game. That's
Well,
for damn
I
sure.
really like Aiden Childs, so I think Aiden Childs in the system he's already familiar with.
And year one as a full-time starter, though. You think he can go in and do it? I know he played.
Win 5 games? I don't think it's crazy to say he can, yeah.
Whoa, Jesus.
Also,
how do they get away with this non-conference?
I'm also, well, yeah, thank you. You're probably going to highlight my point.
Yeah.
Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. After that, everything's either debatable or it's not good.
That's fair.
So I don't view the entire Big Ten as some gauntlet he can't navigate 5 wins through. It sounds like you're going to tell me he's going to start 3-0.
They were 4-8 last year, just for perspective.
Yeah.
Their non-conference schedule is Florida Atlantic at home.
Should win that.
Prairie View.
You should dominate that.
Prairie View?
You haven't heard of Prairie View?
Prairie View?
They play just up in Vancouver.
Little House on the Prairie? What are we doing here? How is that a Division I football opponent? How is that allowed?
Well,
how is that legal?
We don't know if they're Division I.
I don't think they are. And then at Boston College. That is their non-conference schedule.
Let's say that's a coin flip.
They do have to play
because
the divisions. I don't know. I think the Big Ten's getting rid of divisions next year. But they do have to play in 3 games in a 4-week stretch. They go home against Ohio State end of September.
Loss.
At Oregon the very next week.
Loss.
Then they get Iowa sandwiched in there. 9-6 final. Who wins?
Yeah.
Anybody's guess.
That's exactly the point.
At Michigan the next week.
Loss.
Yeah. So that's a brutal guy. Then the back end is pretty easy where you go Indiana, Illinois, Purdue, Rutgers, and all those could be winnable. I don't know anything about any of those teams. I just don't expect Michigan State to be very good. But to your point, they're probably going to have the best quarterback play they've had in a while.
You said 5 wins was kind of – that's the argument. It's just like, can he get 5 wins? I think he can get 5 wins. Can he get 6? I think you're splitting hairs and you're pushing it, but it's not been a great start for him.
No, the portal entries have not been good. And I think if you're a Michigan State fan, you're wondering, should there have been more early on? Because I think the expectations for coaches now are different because of the portal. Like, we do this with Mario. He's going into year 3 at Miami. Like, dude, you have the ability to turn your roster over every year that you want to. Every year you can go pick and choose the guys that you want. You can boot the guys out that you want. Like, this isn't – back in the day it used to be you got to give a guy 3 to 4 years, get his recruiting classes, let him develop guys. It's going to take some time. That reality doesn't exist in college football anymore. They have a $100 million television rights deal. Go pay for players if you're not getting enough of them. The money is there.
Well, anybody making any excuse for Mario this year is either absolutely on the take for Miami or – there's something else going on there. Come on. This is not 1994 anymore.
Give them one more year, though.
Give the coach 4 to 5 years, and then we'll see what they are. No, it's the portal exists. You're recruiting like these, and you're funded. This should be an ACC contender, if not a favorite to win the ACC at this point.
Yes, they absolutely should be. So Michigan State loses one of their best defensive players, and I did chuckle at that a little bit because I've seen a lot of Beaver fans say, and I don't necessarily disagree with the take, one of the primary reasons Jonathan Smith was put on a higher pedestal as a coach and ended up largely getting the Michigan State job because of it is because of the way they played defensively the last couple of years. And that was due in part because of the hire of Trent Bray, or the promotion, I should say, of Trent Bray. And they could run the ball. Their offensive line was good. I'm not saying he was an idiot offensive coach.
They were arguably a top 3 rushing team.
Sure. His quarterback play has been horrible. He was handed a number 1 overall quarterback in the country, and he couldn't turn him around like everybody thought that he would be able to in that system. When they won 9 games 2 years ago, the primary reason they won 9 games 2 years ago was because of their defense.
I'm not going to play this revisionist history stuff that Oregon State fan, because they don't like him. He's a snake. I get all that stuff. That you're right to not root for him. Come on. They were like one of the best rushing teams in the conference the last couple years. The DJ thing didn't work out for him. Worked out just fine with Branson, who's not even a top 2 contender, it sounds like, to be a starting quarterback. Won with Branson.
Because of their defense.
Okay.
He was carried. He was carried, Brandon. He was carried.
Yeah. All right.
I want to get to this audio clip. Jabbar Muhammad, Oregon is doing their spring game on Saturday. Very excited about that. And they're doing their post-practice press conference stuff. So players, coaches come out and talk and all that. Well, this one made the rounds yesterday because there is a player who is a former Husky on the Oregon Duck roster. That is Jabbar Muhammad, which is always weird, and it's the modern day of college football. That's what you're going to get. He was asked about the decision to go to Oregon, and this is what he had to say.
Yeah, I mean, my previous thoughts were like just, being a kid, everybody dreams of coming to Oregon and everything. But, I was focused on the school I was at previously. I didn't have no thoughts about coming here. But when I got in the portal, obviously I got in contact with the coaches, and, they just talked about, what they could do for me here and, what they have building here, and it was something that attracted me.
He said every kid dreams of coming to Oregon, and Husky fan was not very fond of seeing that quote yesterday.
Well, I would argue they've not liked him the minute he chose Oregon and left Washington. The quote certainly doesn't help. Breaking news. Nike knows how to market. It's been working.
Yes, they do. He had another line in there later where he said when he used to play NCAA football, he would do the Road to Glory mode, and he would always have his guy go to Oregon because they had cool uniforms when he was a kid.
Well, actually, my takeaway isn't this doesn't shock me at all. It's more this is another reminder that I'm getting old. This dude was how old at the middle of the Chip Kelly run? So what is he? He's 20, 21 right now?
Great question.
I think he's 21, 22.
Yeah.
He's an older player.
He is 22 years old.
So he's 22. In 2010 when they went to the championship.
He was 9 years old.
So, yeah.
9 years. I mean, that's prime. That's like right when you start remembering football
Yes.
and understanding what's happening. And
they were the story of college football, even though they didn't win the title, but they were like, oh, my God, they're in the championship. Oh, my God, nobody can stop this offense. That's right in the wheelhouse of when you're watching sports, and they're one of the most talked about programs in America.
Yeah, he's playing NCAA football. They're cool. They're flashy. The uniforms and all that. That one was not met with great responses up in Seattle, but I quite enjoyed it. There you go. There's your college football notes for the day. A couple of portal entries, and Jabbar Muhammad said everybody dreams of being an Oregon Duck. Let's get to Statter Story. We'll do it next on The Fan.
Your leg bone connected to your knee bone. It's time for a sports injury report. The injuries and rehab that impact the success of sports teams.
Why?
Brought to you by Rock Orthopedic.
Grayson Allen comes up. Oh, boy, limping there. Allen is still down. Remember, he tweaked his ankle in game one. Didn't quite see what happened, but he is in a world of pain underneath.
Spiro Dides talking about Grayson Allen going down last night with an injury. Not good for Phoenix. Did I say that right? Is it Spiro? Did I say his name right?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Spiro's Dides.
Okay, I had a moment on my head where I'm like, is that the right name? I don't know if that's the right name. Dides.
Yeah.
How do I say this?
Look, we talked about this earlier. Your quick take is that Devin Booker is one of the more overrated players in the league. Outside of Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, like Grayson Allen.
Beal's a stud. Shaq a Troutdale. Nurkic is great around the rim.
Yeah.
Loaded roster.
Yeah, loaded roster. Best three-point shooter percentage-wise in the NBA. They just lost it.
Sports Injury Report presented by Rock Orthopedic, board-certified specialists who diagnose and treat the widest range of orthopedic cases with care and expertise. To schedule an appointment with Dr. David Huberty, visit rocpdx.com.
The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Colin Cowherd. This is Draft Week with Dirt and Sprague
Brought to you by Crunch Fitness.
on 1080 The Fan. Crunch the numbers.
There's 6,127 students at Adams, 58% of which are girls. So that's 7,107.32 boobs.
Break the news.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story.
Is it a stat or a story?
Evidence based on olfactory prowess is inadmissible, in case you didn't know.
This is Stat or Story, a monumental judgment call with Dirt and Sprague on 1080.
Come on, do math.
The Fan.
All right, we'll get to one of maybe the scariest things that could happen to you at a sporting event, and that's coming up in about 10 minutes from now. Also, a man with two voices, and it confuses me every time I hear it.
Joe Davis?
Joe Davis. Welcome back in! And a college football note that I forgot to get to earlier. We got a lot to get to. We don't have much time left. Let's see what we got stat or story first.
Your first number is 10.
10.
Is it the number of tournaments Scotty Scheffler has played since his last over par round?
I'm going to really need you here. You're literally wearing golf gear every day you come into
or
the show.
Or is it the length and feet of an alligator that got trapped by a fighter jet at an Air Force base in Florida?
He has not had a round over par this year.
How many has he played?
I mean,
how many tourneys have they played so far?
I mean, God, it starts with Tournament of Champions in week 1 of January. And then we go to Pebble. He played the Farmers, I want to say.
Did he play both in Hawaii or just one of them in Hawaii?
Just one of them, I think. I don't know. It was in January. I'm going to go stat. 10 sounds about right.
Okay, I'm trusting. You're the golf guy.
That sounds about right.
If Swag were to randomly croak, it'd be golf in the Northwest with dirt. I'm going to trust. I'm going to go stat as well.
I'm going to go stat. It's going to be
11.
11. Ah, so close!
Yeah.
Take off the band and shirt.
It was his
you
final,
don't deserve it.
final tournament last year in the
titties
fall.
out for stat or story? Is that what you want?
CJ Cup.
Dave Kingsella, where you at?
Fired a 74.
I bet it's delightful. Pulling my nips out.
But he's yes, he had one round of par at the Masters.
Yes, he shot 72 on Saturday or
40
Friday.
40 consecutive rounds of par or better for one Scotty Scheffler.
He's a machine.
No, MacDill Air Force Base in the Tampa area is near the Hillsborough River. And so there's gator wandering around on the tarmac, so they just kind of rolled the tires and got the guy wedged until the local area wildlife, whoever is on gator duty there in Florida, and they got a lot of full-timers doing gator duty down there in Florida. But, the MacDill Air Force Base tweeted out some nice pictures of this dude trapped between the wheels of a fighter jet on the tarmac at an Air Force base.
Gator on land, not scary.
You're insane.
Gator on land would kill you in a heartbeat.
Because they drag you down.
They drag you down. On land, is he just going to crawl after you with those little legs and snap at you? Just stand on his snout. He can't do anything about it.
Okay.
Are you going Will Darkins right now?
I'm not saying I could beat up a gator. I'm just saying
dirt on Naked and Afraid and see what happens.
If I line up a 10-foot gator and like an anaconda snake next to each other, which one are you more terrified of on land? It's not even close.
Well, snakes are my number one fear.
Sure, there's a lot of hippo coming at you. That's scary. They can run 40 miles an hour.
That doesn't make the gator less scary.
Not scary. I can run away from it.
I'm asking you sincerely here, and I don't care what your actual answer is.
Yeah. How fast can gators run?
If you and I got into a fight, what's the percentage chances you think you could beat me in a fight? I don't care how high it is.
53%.
Okay. 0% you're beating a 10-foot gator in a fight.
They can only run 20 miles an hour, dude. I can run away from that. Get out of here.
Tyreek Hill at full speed is 22 miles an hour.
That is such a miss. That's in water, by the way. 20 miles an hour in water. That's not on land.
Have you seen them run on land?
Well, they're swimming, not running then.
I'm saying if I'm on land and they're on land.
Wow.
I'm not. I could run away from an alligator, so could you.
No, you can't.
And they wouldn't chase you for that long either.
This is a worse Quake
With
tape.
their little tiny legs, there is no chance an alligator can outrun me. There is zero chance. Zero chance. I want to race this.
Oh. I wonder if we can make this happen. We need to call our friends at the Oregon Zoo.
Yeah, what if he gets eaten, though? And then it's like, hey, he was wrong.
He'll sign a waiver.
sign a waiver. Give my wife the insurance money. We'll be okay.
When I was getting my dog trained, they asked if I wanted to put the suit on to let the German Shepherds run and tackle me.
Did they really?
And I was like, yeah. And they go, you have to sign in, basically an NDA.
Yeah. You got to sign a waiver.
A waiver,
Don't
whatever,
sue
yeah.
us.
And yeah, basically you can't sue us. And I was going to do it.
You're voluntarily doing this. You know, we told you the risks.
And then I watched the shepherd do it to a guy, and I'm like, nah, I'm good.
I'm good.
This says alligator's running speed is a little slower than the average human. I'm the average human, slower than me. I'm running away.
All right. Wow. Your next number is 2.85.
An all-time take.
2.85. Is it Scotty Scheffler's stroked gain average on the PGA Tour this season, first on the tour?
I wonder what's on your brain today.
Or is it the weight in kilograms of the largest pig in a blanket ever made? It is National Pig in a Blanket Day.
Here's the other part of this. The question wasn't, can I run away from an alligator? It was, I'm not scared of it.
I'm not scared of it because I can run away from it. If I can run away from a predator, I'm not scared of you.
You said gators on land.
Not scary. Not scary because I can run away.
It's just a ridiculous take.
Grizzly bear? Terrifying. I cannot run a grizzly bear.
You got to zigzag.
I can't zigzag. I'm not quick enough side to side. I can go a straight line. I'm not quick enough side to side.
Unfortunately, I'm the product of the Portland school system. I can't do. What's that in weight?
I already forgot the number. I'm gonna go.
Kilograms.
I'm gonna go story.
2.8 kilograms.
What was the Scotty Scheffler strokes gained?
Scheffler's strokes gained average.
How many strokes do you gain a day?
Not that many. What's that in weight? Like, what's the pounds?
You're gonna have to remember metrics.
Story.
I went to Park Rose. What do you want
story.
from me?
I can't do geometry, dude. Give me story. You're doing
That's
math over there.
6.2 pounds.
Oh, look at that. Well done.
6.2. I'm gonna go stat.
Yeah, that's gonna be right. That's a stat.
It's a story.
Ah, just kidding.
Scotty, no. It is a stat.
Oh, in your effing face.
It is a stat. 2.85 is Scotty Scheffler's strokes gained average. He is over one full stroke better than the field per round. It means when he shows up, he's got a one-shot lead in the first round.
If he putts, he wins every tournament he plays.
Wyndham Clark is second at 1.78. Scotty Scheffler is 2.851.
Dude.
I don't know what Tiger's biggest advantage was in any of his season, but this is Tiger-like dominance.
There was a number that came out earlier this week. His gap, so Rory McIlroy is the number 2 ranked player in the world in the official golf rankings. Scotty Scheffler's lead over the number 2 player in the world, Rory McIlroy, is larger than Rory McIlroy's lead over like the 115th best player in the world.
Scotty's
That's how wide
taken
the
a
gap
month
is.
off to have their first child. He will show up again at the PGA, and he will still be the number 1 ranked player by a lot.
Yeah. He's playing in a watered-down tour right now.
Okay, Greg Norman.
Wow. I'm not wrong. Tigers.
Taylor Gooch isn't there.
Wyndham Clark. Biggest competition, Wyndham Clark.
Major champion.
Yeah.
Worried about Graham McDowell these days?
Yeah. Woods spent a decade above 2.6. Above 2.6 a decade.
I'm saying he's having a Tiger-like year. I'm not saying he's having a Tiger career. Very specific.
Just highlighting that.
I bet he could outrun a gator, too. Tell me about the pig in the blanket.
Where's John Rahm playing?
Yes, it is National Pig in a Blanket Day.
Love a pig in a blanket.
And so the world's largest pig in a blanket, 3.2 kilograms, about 6.5 pounds. Now, the Brits over in Europe, the pig in the blanket is a little different from the American. The American is in the nice Pillsbury dough there. They actually wrap bacon blankets around the pig. They love it for Christmas. Like 8 billion of them get eaten on Christmas over there. Anyway, this thing was like, it could feed 133 people. It was 42 centimeters in circumference, 150 rashers of bacon. I love British stuff. The bespoke sausage weighed 3.2 kilograms. So there you go. They fed like 133. There's actually a pigs in a blanket restaurant somewhere over in Great Britain.
Well, so we have two things here.
Yeah.
Pig in a blanket is two things. And my pig in the blanket, even though I've eaten the other one, I used to love them in elementary school. even though the hot dogs were kind of green.
Yeah, they were.
Well, the wiener wraps.
I'm more fond of the breakfast sausage in the pancake pig in a blanket.
Yes, there's many ways to do it.
Yeah, there are, and that's my favorite pig in a blanket, more so than like a biscuit with a hot dog in it.
Yeah, that's a good take. I don't disagree with
It's like
it.
a pancake taco featuring the sausage.
It's a good little, it's just like a bite of breakfast in one bite.
Dip that into syrup.
Boom, you're good to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, Pillsbury started making the pre-made ones that basically you just pop in the oven in the 1970s.
I ordered a corn dog off the kids menu at a restaurant the other day.
Did they ask if a kid was with you?
No.
Oh, you didn't have Theo with you?
No.
Even though he doesn't have teeth
I
yet?
was getting takeout and going home, and I noticed on the kids menu they had a corn dog on there.
Were they corn dog or corn
He
dog bites?
cannot
An
wait
actual
till
corn
Theo is about somewhere between 2 and
Psyched.
3 and starts
Why
ordering
does
off
that-
the kids menu.
It should be on the
And all
adult
of a
menu.
sudden, Theo's going to have 7 plates in front of him, and Dirt's eating 6 of them. It's
Put it
going
on
to
the big boy menu, man.
chicken tendies and corn dogs.
Corn dogs are fantastic.
Some places have weird stipulations like, well, I don't see a child with you, and you're like, what does that matter?
If they would have pulled that card, I would have been like, I'm getting takeout. There's one at home, which there is technically one at home, but he's not quite eating corn dogs yet, but they don't need to know that.
I was talking more of the sit-down situations.
Need to know basis.
All right, your final number, 367. Is it the number? Is it the total score related to par for Nelly Corda in her LPGA professional career?
I have no idea what that means.
I'm already confused.
Or
is it the number of baby boys born in Oregon in 1985 that were named Brandon? The most Brandons ever in Oregon in a single year since 1920. It is National Brandon Day.
No kidding.
I'm going to go story just
Let's
because
go
of
Brandon,
that.
huh?
Nelly Corda's really good. I don't get the stat. I'm going to go story. Give me story.
So that's a year before I was born. So my mom jumped on that train a little late.
The Brandons was a theme.
But also, I don't qualify into this category. I wasn't born in Oregon.
Oh, touche.
Amarillo, Texas.
That's right. You're a Texas baby.
I am a Texas baby through and through. I wave the flag. Makes no sense to anybody. I'm going to go story in hopes that we can just keep talking about my name.
Yeah. Look at that.
There you go.
Look at that.
226 there on Nelly Corda, by the way.
She's dominating. 5 straight
She's
tournament
dominating.
wins.
Not playing
I don't
this
know
week. She's
who's
like, I
going
need
to
a
lose
breather.
first. She withdrew this week because she played 4 straight weeks and won 4 straight
Is
weeks.
Rose Zhang not playing?
She's been playing.
She's
Yeah.
young,
I
man.
thought she was the dominant player, and then now Nelly Corda's just
No,
coming.
No,
she
she
was
was
the
just young.
phenom.
She's the young phenom.
Nelly was hurt last year. Remember, she had that blood clot situation
That's right.
in her arm.
Yeah.
And so it took her a while, and now she's fully healthy, and she is on fire. Joined Nancy Lopez and Annika Sorenstam as the only players in LPGA Tour history to win 5 consecutive starts. So hopefully she's back there in a couple of weeks. No, Brandon's. The most popular year for Brandon's in Oregon was 1985. There were 367 Brandons born that year here.
That's a lot of Brandons.
There were a handful of girls also named Brandon, but
I've seen a couple of those.
but yeah.
How does that spelling different?
They
No,
do it with
same
a Y.
spelling.
Some will do it with a Y.
Oh.
Make it
Some will do it with an I, some will do it with an E.
Brandon?
Brandon, Brandon.
I didn't know that could go both ways.
I looked it up. In 2 days, it's National Jason Day.
Hey!
Not Jason Day.
No.
The Aussie.
Jason.
Jason Swigard. Jason Day.
The day of Jason.
And August 1st, National Andrew Day.
Let's go, baby.
There you go.
Summertime. Feeling good.
The last year they have stats, 2022 in Oregon, there were only 5 baby boys named Brandon.
It's fading.
It's fading.
That's okay.
It's all right.
I like the name. I still don't always respond when somebody says it. Because I don't hear it a lot.
It's your day, man.
you.
National Brandon Day.
What are you going to do for National Brandon
What are you
Day?
going to do besides have some pigs in a blanket?
I get to go volunteer, and then I get to do yard work, and then stress about tomorrow's show, and, do homework with my kid. We'll figure it out.
That's all you got? That's all you got on National Brandon Day?
I think there needs to be some sort of celebratory thing
Let's
done
get you
in the
to a
Sprague
strip
household.
club or something tonight, huh?
Oh,
Come
we'll
on.
get dangerous and frisky. I'll be at the 5 o'clock happy hour. If somebody says Andrew, do you respond?
No, I do not. I do not. Somebody gives me an Andrew. I actually don't even respond to Andy sometimes.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because so many people call me Dirt that I don't resonate with my first name very often, and it's usually only family members. Sometimes listeners will do that, and I'll get that in public. Sometimes like, hey, Andy, and I just kind of keep walking because I don't.
Sure.
Just doesn't compute.
Well, and most people call him Swag.
Yeah, you go by Swag.
I don't know how many people
I
in his
still
life.
hear Jason
Do you?
enough.
Jason.
Parents. Some work setting, other stuff. They're
Work setting? Who in this building calls you
not
Jason?
here. The Hops will call me.
Yeah, okay.
It's here. It depends on who it is.
Gotcha.
No. Well, there you go. Happy National Brandon Day, everybody.
There you go.
Celebrate accordingly. Let's get to a terrifying thing that could happen at a sporting event. Two voices. And
It's not an alligator, clearly.
No, it's not, because you can outrun them. And what to expect tonight in sports, that's next for Sure Swag with Sports Center.
This is Draft Week with Dirt and Sprague.
Brought to you by Crunch Fitness.
Now, from the Fan Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Brought to you by A&E Plumbing, Heating, and Air, serving Portland, Southwest Washington, and the Gorge. Online at aneheatingandcooling.com. It's hard to stop a train. First on the Fan, the home team train was finally stopped in the NBA playoffs by the Indiana Pacers, shooting 55%. Pascal Siakam, a triple-double in Milwaukee, and they even up the series a game apiece against the Bucks. 125-108 the final. They'll go back to Indy for games 3 and 4. Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving combining for 55 points. And the Mavs shut down Kawhi Leonard in his return to the Clippers lineup, holding him to 15. They grind out a 96-93 Game 2 win. They'll go back home to Dallas tied at 1-1. Timberwolves, well, they still are perfect, 2-0. They shut down the Suns in the second half again, 55-42. They outscore them for a 105-93 victory in a 2-0 series lead. Pair of Game 2s tonight. First up, Boston. Celtics have a 1-0 lead on the Heat. Expected to hammer them again. Miami, 14.5-point underdogs for a 4 o'clock tip. The nightcap is in Oklahoma City, where the Pelicans try to even things up after their narrow loss in Game 1. 6:30 Thunder, 7.5-point favorites. Both those games on TNT. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigard from the Fan Sports Desk. Listen live or on demand at the Odyssey app, the Fan's desktop player, or tell your smart speaker to play 1080 The Fan.
The Fan merch locker is now open with shirts from the fan shows and hosts you love. Get yours now at Shepard and Sprague.
Brought to you by Crunch Fitness.
On 1080 The Fan.
I got to remember to do my poll questions for my Quake Takes today. I put out my Devin Booker one. Let's see what the results are.
Oh, you're getting massive support early.
Am I really?
It's like 80%, yes.
Man of the people. Now I got to do gators on land.
Scary or no scary? You can't be doing, can you run away?
Yeah, scary or not scary.
10-foot gator.
10-foot gator.
The story was
That's
10-foot gator.
That's fair. 10-foot gator on land. Scary or not scary? I'm going to put that out right now. You go vote at Dirt and Sprague on Twitter. Give us a follow while you're there, and we'll follow you back.
I put the Jonathan Smith one up as well, who will have a better year.
I love it. Look at that. Poll questions all over the place today. I'll tell you one thing I am terrified of, and I have no problem saying this. If I came face-to-face with a Jokic brother, I would run for my life.
Very good call.
Those guys are scary.
Yeah.
They're large human beings.
Yep.
There's some like mafia ties from Eastern European countries, I'm sure, that I don't want to know about.
I'm not saying any of that.
Did you see them get into a brouhaha in the stands the other night?
Which is remarkable that anybody.
What are we doing?
Anybody would want to do that.
How dumb, how much like pumped steroid testosterone do you have to have in your system to get into a tussle with the Jokic brothers and think this is a good idea?
I think it's more booze.
Yeah.
Booze, like,
than
dude, you could give me all the booze in the state of Oregon and I would still know that that's a bad idea to get into a fight with those guys.
Coincidentally, I went to a local store that sells a lot of different things. And going in as I was going out, I saw a guy that had to have been at least 55, roided out of his gourd. No, not even that big, just like, and
straight
not
out
very
of
tall.
T-Town.
Yeah, just you could see it and go, oh, man.
Dude.
There's too many veins going on here.
Not supposed to have veins there. That's not how they work.
No, and he, not tiny, but not built to the level you think he would be on the roids, on the juice.
Be fun to try steroids one time. So I just wanted to point that out. Jokic brothers, scary.
What?
But you guys wouldn't be curious? Try steroids? No?
I don't think you just try.
Give them a shot, do a cycle, see how it goes.
I don't think it's a gummy. I don't think you just try the experience.
Am I going to get banned from sports radio for juicing? Is that a thing?
No, it'd be more like, what does that do if you just try it and don't do it again?
I don't know. I'm curious. That's what I want to know. Do I get 10 more yards on my driver?
Yeah, or your Chris Benoit. I don't think you want to dabble in that. Dude, I'm not. You don't want to get near that. Why would you just try something like that?
I'm a very mild-mannered guy. I'm not worried about rage, okay? I think I'll be all right.
You were so impressionable in college. Hey, you want to try this? Sure.
Sure, why not? Can I hear it? Give me your butt. I'll inject it. There you go.
What's that substance?
The cream of the clear.
Man.
Make this one make sense to me. The Pacers won last night, and Tyrese Halliburton had a better game, and they won. They evened up the series. He was really bad in game one. I don't know much about this guy. I don't follow many interviews with him. I know he had the point at the wrist thing, and they had the good in-season tournament and all that. He was doing a press conference after the game, and see if you can sense the difference here.
We expect a great crowd. A lot of people are excited about what's to come, in the series, and just the energy in the city right now with everything that's going on, but especially with us. So, we're excited to go. But I'm not going to do it. Go ahead. Not going to do it.
That's the same person. And one answer.
So he cleared his throat and his voice changed?
I guess. It sounds like two different people.
That's Karl Anthony Towns like.
That is Tyrese Halliburton. Part one, part two.
Wow. Well, I didn't see that, actually. I had just seen that he's alleging his brother faced racist comments. There was an N-bomb reportedly dropped in the stands.
In Milwaukee.
Yeah, to his brother.
Okay. That's not good.
I think they're investigating that. I didn't hear that. Can you play that one more time?
Yeah, you want it one more time? So it switches about halfway through. This Halliburton, he starts answering. I'm assuming it's the throat clear, and then it's just different.
But listen how deep it starts versus where it finishes.
We expect a great crowd. A lot of people are excited about what's to come, in the series, and just the energy in the city right now with everything that's going on, but especially with us. So, we're excited to go. But I'm not going to do it. Go ahead. Not going to do it.
It was a great line by you leading into that clip.
My hips thrusted hard.
There you go. The two different Tyrese Halliburtons. Yeah. Are we excited about the NBA games tonight?
No.
Because I'm taking the night off. Can I be honest with you? I need a break. I need a breather. I'm already 5 nights in. I'm tapping out for an evening.
If we're being really honest in
like
a trust
Heat,
tree
Celtics,
here,
Pelicans, Thunder, that's a terrible lineup.
if we're in a trust tree, so I'll let you go. Every day that this has been happening, I have been like, I hope people care about this game. I hope people care that the playoffs are starting. And I'm just not having any feel that any of America cares about the playoffs.
Who we drafted first overall? Let's get to the NFL draft.
It's just a lot of like
What's my team doing in the portal? What are we getting? Who are we going after?
Let the NBA breathe tonight. Maybe keep an eye on the Heat because this has all the potential of Boston thinking they've already won the series and they could no-show.
Oh, you think a sneaky Heat win, huh?
Heat win in Boston with no Jimmy Butler?
Well, it would be more about Boston not being interested themselves than Miami, like, blowing the doors off the place. Like, if Boston all of a sudden is, like, 2 for 25 from 3 through 3 quarters.
Sure.
And they're keeping Miami around. Maybe you flip on the fourth quarter. No, the Bruins Maple Leafs game in Toronto tied at 1. Much more interesting from a playoff standpoint tonight.
And then their more interesting games are tomorrow during
the NFL draft.
The NFL draft, which nobody's going to watch those games.
Great job, Adam Silver.
Well done, NBA.
Well done.
Who's worse at planning this stuff out? The PGA Tour, who decides, let's play through a thunderstorm and then have a Monday morning finish at 2 o'clock a.m. Pacific, or the NBA, who gives us this the night before the draft, and then tomorrow gives us Game 3, Knicks and Sixers with all that drama, and Embiid saying we're coming back, the way they lost Game 2, and then I know it's probably over, but Lakers and Nuggets is rating really well early on. Those games are tomorrow during the NFL draft.
Well, I would vote golf because golf's league is literally going away. Basketball isn't losing players to a Saudi-backed league.
Hey.
So golf ultimately should win this.
Wait till they do. Would you watch Kevin Durant playing for Team Saudi Arabia?
Not a chance.
Hey, you got 50 last night.
Yeah, okay. All right. Good for him. Who'd he play against?
There you go. There's 2 Tyrese Halliburtons, and the Jokic brothers are scary, and the NBA playoffs continue tonight.
By the way, the poll question got posted, so we're getting responses to your Gator comment.
Okay, Gator comment.
Your Gator on land, not scary. This is a good one from Brian. Would be interested to know what would scare people who are voting no to this, and if a 10's not scary, is 12 scary? Is 13? Like, what's the foot that they say it is where you start to go, shaking in my boots now?
How do they get faster the bigger they are, or do they get slower the bigger they are?
I guess.
Do they have to be short and agile to be quicker?
I guess I'm just stumped by your definition of scary. If I see a 12-foot snake, I'm not just walking past it.
See, because
I'm going
scary.
way around. Yeah,
It's
so you're just going to casually walk past a 10-foot gator.
Go toss it a hot dog.
Yeah, okay.
Let's wrap it up next on The Fan.
The Fan is live on YouTube.
Crunch Fitness.
On 1080 The Fan.
Got some poll questions up. We'll answer them in a moment. Didn't get to it today. We can noodle on this tomorrow if you want. Did you guys have any takes on the proposed Group of 5 playoff? Did you see that come out yesterday?
Yeah, Derek Dooley is the one leading the charge for the Group of 5 as a Group of 5 member.
Not yet. Kind of. Not yet.
No, everybody's calling it Power 4 now. The Power 5 is dead.
You did lose. The Pac-12 lost its autonomous state or whatever the phrasing is.
So if that's going to maintain in the next year or two, and they're going to be Group of 5 forever, I mean, I think if you're looking for any way to keep these fan bases, and look, a lot of these fan bases lie publicly. There's going to be a lot of Oregon State football fans that are devastated about their team, but they're going to watch the playoffs.
Yes.
It is what it is. Football is it's a sickness. We all have it. It's contagious. We've caught it. We cannot stop it. But if you're looking for something to keep a lot of these other fan bases involved and interested, the FCS does it. And I don't watch the FCS every year, but sometimes I'll catch a game like, look, Montana's fans understand the situation.
Yeah.
We're an FCS team. We're not in the D1 thing, but this is fun. Who cares?
I would say if the bowls go away, if we're just done with the bowls.
We should be.
And then there is also a financial benefit in that. It'll obviously be smaller than the big college football playoff, but if there are units or something paid to those teams and there's financial benefit for them to continue it, then yeah.
What is the FC? Let me ask you this. You would know this. How much does the FCS make from their playoff to these schools?
That I don't know.
Because they play at each other's
for their level. I bet they make okay money.
I don't know
they
if
play on
have...
the road, though. That's not cheap to travel. So
no.
Just do that.
But one of the team gets to be at home, which I like.
Yeah.
I like the home field advantage stuff throughout.
Yeah, it's only a neutral site, I think, for the title game.
I love the idea of it, and I would watch it because it's football, and we love football, and it's more football. The only thought that I had here, the difference between the FCS and this, how many players are going to play? That was my only thought of we're already not playing in bowl games.
Portal? Are we?
How many guys are getting ready for the NFL? How many guys are leaving their school because they're going into the portal to go to a bigger program? And then you end up getting watered down teams in these playoff games and championships. That was my only thought. And they said they're trying to do this whole private equity back, get the money behind it. Dude, let's just fast forward. Give the winning share to the winning team, and then you'll get all these guys committed for an extra $100K a player or whatever the answer would be. But that was my only thought. I love the idea of it. You just got to find a way to incentivize the players to actually participate. All right, let's answer the poll questions here quickly. Some of these haven't been up very long. You can go vote. 10-foot gator on land, scary or not scary? 81% of you say scary so far. Is Devin Booker overrated? 77.6% say yes. That's my people.
Well, but that makes the Quake take a tiny little tremor.
It does. I know. It's not a Quake take. Who will have the better season in college football next year, Deion or Jonathan Smith? Jonathan Smith, 68% of the vote. There you go.
Quite get to 69, could he?
Yeah, nice. Where are you off to, Swag? Where are you going?
Nashville.
Austin, Texas.
Austin. Oh, same
Why
thing.
did I think Nashville?
That was where we went 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's
Have fun in Austin.
You'll love Austin.
So, yep, I'll be back. I'll be back on Tuesday.
Don't drink too much on night one. Pace yourself.
No. I'm getting in late, and there's only 5 or 6 of us there, so
Okay.
I'll probably meet guys and have a cocktail, but that's it tonight.
Yeah.
You're going to be drunk when you go to sleep.
There's zero chance you're not drunk.
It's not to say I might not have a couple on the plane. But.
Exactly. That will do it for us, folks. Thanks for being a part of our Wednesday. Thanks, everybody, for watching on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and like the video as well while you're there. If you missed any of the show, you can go check the podcast, 1080thefan.com, at Dirt and Sprague and at 1080thefan. Tomorrow is NFL Draft Day, baby. I'm excited for it. We will talk to you at 6 a.m. tomorrow. Calling us next. You're listening to 1080 The Fan.
I'm Trisha Crick with Back to You.